Previously in X-Men, after saving the hidden prehistoric savage land from the tyrannical sun god Garok, saving Japan from the destructive powers of Moses Magnum, and even saving the universe from annihilation, the Uncanny X-Men are finally ending their odyssey and going home, unless... What amazing super team could possibly stand in their way? Today we are reading X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 120, or if you want to read it classic X-Men style, you can read classic X-Men 26. And we're finally on to Essential X-Men Volume 2. I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are Group of 7 Comics. And today we welcome Trevor Williams. 16 Shooter is your handle on Instagram. And you're an amazing photographer. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I love the show. You did leave out the Magnum Force, though. I mean, you know, they get the short shrift every time.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the show. I mean, you know, I'm here every week because, like, I love the X-Men. This is my jam, man. This is where I picked up comic books before. Am I jumping the gun with
no?
This? But okay, I picked up comics, of course, when I was little. You get the Superman, you get your Batman, you know, and it's like great and everything. But I think chronologically, this was probably the first series that I ever had to find the next issue, because you'd go to those racks in the drugstore and you pick up a Batman, and then you go the next month and there'd be a different Batman series, and like I never know what happens after that. There were no comic book stores. I didn't know about pulling comic books off the shelf, you know, for people. So X-Men was the first thing I think that I got that I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is just like, I love these people. They're real. You know what I mean? I know SpiderMan was always like that, you know, like he was a teenager and everything, but I just thought these guys were cool and funny, and Chris Claremont and John Byrne just sucked me in, man. It was
the greatest. What your first issue was?
161. It's the, oh God, I should know that. And I knew it before, and I should have remembered it. It's the issue where it actually comes back to Mariko and Rogue. It's Rogue's first appearance, I think, as an X-Men. And it's that cover where it's black.
Paul Smith
and Wolverine is coming through with the Rogue behind him, and he takes on the Silver Samurai. And then he gets married, I think, in the next step. It's just so good, man. It's so good.
We're gonna tackle it next April.
Okay. Do we have that scheduled out? I'm there.
That issue is really just to skip ahead a year. That pose, that Wolverine in that crouch with the claw arms to the side, it in itself is iconic, but it like became such a staple of Wolverine poses from then forward. Every artist does their version of Wolverine in that pose, probably best done, I'd say, by Arthur Adams. You know, when he tackles that kind of pose, it's
like the claws out.
The claws out down and running,
chest
like
forward. Right.
Art Adams has a way of doing those wings on his hat that just like beats everything. But that cover, yeah, you're right, exactly. It's iconic, man. It sold me. Like, that was it. That was it. For Wolverine is the coolest character ever. And
he's awesome.
He's in Japan and he's so deep and he's got like all these different angles to him, and like, oh, I'm in, totally in.
And that's one of the things I've loved most about reading through these, you know, first 28 or whatever issues, is that we see him go from not being that to being that.
Yeah.
You know, over this time as Claremont and Byrne dive, you know, one step at a time into one more, like, peel away those layers of the onion just bit by bit, and we're really starting to see shades of a complex, as you put it, deep character who is very clearly the core of the X universe. Yeah. When you zoom out and you think, okay, what's the best thing to sell? There's a reason he was the best character on the cartoon. There was a reason the third iteration of the cartoon was named after him, with Wolverine and the X-Men. There's a reason he's the focal point of the franchise. And then the second iteration of the franchise is not nearly as good without him at the center.
Yeah.
Because he can carry a movie, the character, but of course Hugh Jackman can carry it anyway. So anyway, Wolverine is phenomenal. Luckily we get some Wolverine in this issue. And in the backup issue too, or the backup story in X-Men 26. It's a fun bar arm wrestle. I'll tell you about it after. But
those backup stories are bonkers.
They are.
I didn't check to see if I had the classic X-Men because I don't have this issue. The 120 that we're doing. I have almost everything from 123 on, like everything. I don't have 120. No, I'm looking on eBay tonight. I'm like, I'm buying it. I gotta have this. I don't know.
Well,
I got some classics here.
Ooh.
And these are the oldest ones I own, and they're in pretty good shape. They're probably.
That's awesome.
I do like that X-Men, that classic X-Men font, like that larger.
Yeah,
X.
The X.
I do like that. It's very blocky, but I like the new one that we currently are using with Uncanny. But
first appearance of everybody's favorite villain, the Mimic, who wasn't really a villain, but
no, he's a neat looking one.
Yeah.
What is that? What have you got there? Oh my gosh!
That's really enjoying this. I need the other issues though because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well,
I'm like sucked in, and I gotta get the rest.
They're coming. I'm glad you're digging it. We really love making them, and the story goes some really good places. Chris wrote some great stuff, and I'm so I'm not elbow deep. I'm past that. I'm up to the shoulder in production for the next issue, and it's like I said this every time. It's the best one we've made, so I'm very happy with it.
I love the look of it. I love it. The setting. World War II is a great setting.
I
always loved the classic Captain America and stuff like that, so I just love that era for a superhero or super team type of.
Yeah,
it's great
for those kinds of those adventures that characters can go on. The doors are wide open for possibility. So it is tons of fun. So can you tell us a little bit about your photography? We can actually pull up a pic and show the world an example of what you make.
You know what? I'm just going to do the Instagram. This is easier.
You do your thing, man.
Okay. Yeah. Because pulling up those pictures is going to be. I got into toy photography probably about 2016. I did product photography. I'm a graphic designer, so also wanted to be a comic book artist, but I was way too slow. I just found out that you had to crank out a page or two a day, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I got into photography as an extension of the toys, just collecting the toys, and kind of took off. I'm trying to find some X-Men related stuff here.
Well, we're fans of it.
Oh, here we go.
So whether it's Vito Corleone or if
is that the Sentinel, the
HasLab Sentinel?
HasLab. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, look at that Wolverine. That's great.
Yep.
I got him right here.
Yeah, I know, but yours isn't shoving his claws in that Sentinel's head.
No.
Yeah, Vito Corleone.
Look at
so
that.
The 1/6 shooter comes from. I collected a lot of. You can see him behind me. I collect a lot of 1/6 figures. To begin with, that was kind of my forte. Now everybody kind of bust my chops because I don't shoot 1/6 as much. So I'm gonna have to change my name. But no, I can't at this point. Then I started a couple years ago doing photography, being the photographer for Mythic Legions, Four Horsemen, Cosmic Legions, and Mythic Legions, kind of a fantasy-based figure.
Those horses are incredible.
Yeah, there's I
gotta get me one just so I can have a horse model. And the Conan are there.
Oh, here we go. Hang on a second. Let me go to that one. There we go. Yeah, these horses are incredible, man. These are beautiful. They did a great job with these things. But it's it's fun because it's like this is kind of what I get to do in place of having become a comic book artist is like or a film director. That's the other thing I wanted to do. Neither of which I did. But this is kind of a piece of that. You get to kind of go in there and set up a set, set up a scene and do the shot, so sure. This is all one shot. This is May 4th. I try to do like a big thing every year, try to make it a kind of an epic shot. And this was, I have this life-size Darth Vader, Ralph McQuarrie Darth Vader helmet, which
as one does,
I always wanted to get this. There's 250 of them in the world, and I always wanted to own one. And I found like a killer deal on one, which still wasn't a killer deal, but it was good for this. And I'm like, I have to do this. This is the Star Wars original illustration for the book. Right. Yeah.
He shouts to Scott Chandler. Yeah, the photographs are incredible. We're really
thanks, Scott.
Grateful we get to see Trevor's work. Trevor, this stuff. I mean, you're talking about making comics or being a film director, and I don't think there's a difference in terms of like this isn't a knock. That like it's not a step down. It's a lateral move. That you still get to compose amazing images that inspire and make people feel the feelings. Right, you're eliciting an emotional response from the people who look at them, and they're gorgeous. And whether it's hand drawn or they're moving, like from a movie, or they're still photography, whatever that you've made the subject matter shine, and they're really really awesome.
Thanks.
They're gorgeous. Have you thought about ever composing panels for a comic book this way?
I actually have done that. So I am part of this group called ACBA, which is Articulated Comic Book Art, but I don't think I have this one up here. I will see if I can pull it up at some point during the show, but I'm not going to waste your time trying to find it now. But I have done that. I set up a Star Wars. They had a contest, and I set up a Star Wars panel, and I want to show it to you because there was some panels in there that I was very proud of that actually would have been great in a comic book. Like. I will show you later. I posted some to my story today on Instagram. If anybody's you'll see my pencils that I did for Darkhawk. I was talking to Tom Whalen, who's an illustrator, on my Legions Lounge show the other day. I think Legions, and we got talking about he wanted to be a comic book artist as well at one point, and it made me pull out my pencils and my sample stuff, and it leaves a lot to be desired from a storytelling standpoint. But the line work was there. It was pretty good. If I could have done more than a page a week, I probably would have maybe done something. But
you still, that's the funny thing is I think that the idea of trying to get whatever it's a page a day, a page a week, a page a month, whatever the number is, I don't think that an artist has to be bound by the production schedule anymore, unless you're thinking about sharing things through a publisher. If you can make what you want at your own pace, but your aesthetic, like the look of your pages, will change depending on how much time you give yourself. So
that's true. Like self-publishing is a whole other thing now.
You don't you can reach 50,000 people, through Instagram or Kickstarter, and you don't have to. You probably actually don't want to go through one of the big two publishers. Because it will handcuff everything you're doing, and you don't really get paid.
And that's the thing. Like when I'm older, and back in the day, those self-publishing things were stuff we put on the back shelf, and there was a couple that people bought here and there, and then if you were able to even pick up the second issue because the store that you bought it from didn't order it after because it didn't sell well or something. It's like I can't find this thing. But I mean that's true. I mean it's a whole different world now with self-publishing. So that's really cool.
And not just the self-publishing, but also the distribution. Like you can upload it to. You can make, let's just say, a 24-page book, and upload it to a template, and it'll print on demand through Amazon. And you split it with them, whatever the numbers are, 60-40. But you never have to worry about order fulfillment, nothing. You've uploaded it, it's now hands off. You promote it any way you want, and every time it sells, they print it and they ship it, and you don't even have to worry.
That's crazy.
There are lots of ways you can do it. You can also just go right to the internet and never print.
Right.
You can just do a web comic. So the opportunity is there if there's a story one does want to tell. And then the photography side, I'm just thinking like ahead of what some of the limitations are, like backgrounds. Every time you change scenes, you need a new diorama.
That's the thing.
Like you either you think about outdoor and you think about maybe one indoor scene per issue or something like that. Keep it really limited,
right?
And then
you think about how long it takes you to draw a panel, and then try to do that, with a set, and then you have to set up and then take it down, or you have to think ahead and do everything you can in the set that you have.
That's exactly.
It's an interesting thought. It's something I have thought about in the past, and doing like some sort of story, and people have done it. but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
So I think
so I try to tell a story in one picture, like with something like this with the Hellfire Club, and
this is spoiling it for Chris here because he hasn't read this far.
Well, but I know, but you know what? I remember the Hellfire Club episodes from the animated series in the 90s.
There you go.
And then, you know, of course, Kevin Bacon. So, you know, Kevin Bacon. You know, there you go. I had a question though. So just for my own
there you go.
and
That's
I'm
some
sure
spoilers
for those out there as well. So 1/6, you said it's the scale of the figures. Is that 6 inches? Is that what that means, or no?
No, 1/6 is 12-inch figures. 1/12 is the 6-inch figures, and then 1/18 is the small, really small,
like the 3.75 guys.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So these are 6-inch figures. These are Marvel Legends and
that's
Mayfix.
Mayfix.
This is a rip
import.
Those Hellfire Club guys always look cool. Those weird masks.
Don't they? They were creepy, man.
That's what I mean. Like great look for like goon, right? Like I gotta get some goons to beat up.
Yeah.
These guys, these weird puppet masks. I don't know. It was very
cool. Yep. Yeah. Some of the stuff they got away with in those comics back then. Well, we know we've discussed it on the show. But anyway,
guys specifically, I think. I mean, that's like Reese and Macon and Cole.
Mm-hmm.
They
God, good. Wow.
Thank you.
That's good.
I'm skipping ahead, but those characters get just destroyed by Wolverine in the raid on the Hellfire Club. But then Chris, this is for you. You know that issue, that Weapon X oversized that I loaned you?
Yes.
When you read the issue where Wolverine is in New York City at Christmas time and he fights the characters called the Reavers with Lady Deathstrike,
right?
That's them, like rebuilt cyborg wise.
Ooh,
so they come back and become a cyborg team.
So there's Hellfire Club members, like goon guys who have names. He then goes through them and they bring them back.
Yeah, they're like eviscerated, man. Like one guy, like again, it's behind him, but like you know, he's taken out his entire, chest or guts or whatever, man.
And they made a Marvel Legend of a Reaver with two different heads, so you can make Skullbuster is the one who wears the
tank.
Right. That's
another Reaver.
That one's a Build-A-Figure that is not. It's coming out now.
Okay.
And me and Kevin from Toying Around, like we're splitting that one. But I think I'm going to give him the BAF parts because I need the whole. It's a long story, but eventually I will get that. That one's called the one with the tank bottom. Oh man.
Treads is like a Transformer name.
It easily could be a Transformer name.
No, it's Razor. Is it Razor something or other? Wait a minute.
Maybe. Either way, this plays actually into what we've been talking about in the last issue, or 2 issues ago, where Chris Claremont gives these random goons first names.
Right. And androids.
Jake, old buddy. It was Jake, I think.
Jake, old buddy. That's
so
right.
He keeps calling him, Jake. And then in the issue that we're about to go through, they name a couple characters as well, like kind of out of the blue. Like I don't know why. And it just makes me think that in that Hellfire one, where they do the same thing, but that comes back.
Mm-hmm.
You will see.
Yeah, right. Jake, old buddy. It's Bonebreaker, by the way. Bonebreaker is the tank.
Breaker.
Oh man, I gotta get a Bonebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, and that's one of the fun places for mixing lines, because if you were to get multiples of that particular Reaver body, which I did, they look kind of lame when they're the same body every time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I notice one idea that I'm stealing from the Fwoosh from Robo, using a G.I. Joe Gung Ho body.
Oh.
And sticking that head on and maybe adding replacing an arm or something. But Gung Ho as the base is like a perfect Reaver.
That is.
Add a little variety.
That is.
We can get into that another time. But I mean, we saw pictures. You're customizing figures too. You're painting and
yeah, I do a lot of like Mythic Legions and stuff like that. So I've customized these guys. This is a whole cottage industry, the customization of these figures, because they're modular. They come apart fairly easily with a little heat and stuff like that. So this is a standard body, but the head is custom. I painted that, and this little thing on here is a custom thing. And I painted the body on this one. So I mean, yeah, I mean, Mythic Legions are ripe for customizing. It's a lot of fun.
So do you have a workshop space that you use?
Yeah, I've got a desk over here that I do some painting on. Yeah, I'm like, I just got into it last year, but I like, again, like you're an artist, you do these kind of things, right? You use to paint miniatures and stuff like that. It's like, it kind of flows from one thing to the next, and it may take you a little bit of time to practice it, to get good at it, but it's kind of there. You know what I mean? Not to like be like, but it's like, it's kind of there, It's,
So,
it's in your blood or whatever the hell it's in. I don't know.
Those figs you just showed are giving me all those like 90s era World of Warcraft vibes.
Oh yeah,
my PC.
Oh, totally.
All the goblins and orcs had. Jason, did you ever play it? Have voices? No.
Mm-hmm.
There's a two-headed ogre, and when you sent them into battle, one would say, "I'm ready, master," and the other would go, "I'm not ready," and they just would fight, and I just.
Dude, you have to do voiceovers, man. I'm telling you.
That's the other side hustle I gotta get into. Underground voice animation or something.
Trevor, do you remember when you first started messing with like customizing figures? Did you do like head swaps or body part swaps with old G.I. Joes or Star Wars figures, or did you do any of that stuff back in the day?
Well, within my Darth Vader box that I showed you earlier with all my Kenners from as a kid, there is a Han Solo, the small head Han Solo that I drew a beard on with a ballpoint pen because I figured, it's like that storytelling thing. It's like, well, it's past Star Wars. He would definitely grow a beard. You know what I mean? He'd be this cool gruff, but it was blue. And I tried to get it off, but it's not coming off. So
that's so funny. You drew a beard on him.
So that was probably my first customization.
I remember swapping, taking apart my G.I. Joes, a couple of them, and like maybe switching arm pieces or pants or whatever, or a head.
These were the 3 3/4 G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
Okay.
G.I. Joe Real American Hero.
Because I had like the 12-inch ones too. Again, I'm old.
That one's you're going back when you do that one. This is, I think, for you, Chris.
I think so. The peon orc from World of Warcraft, Tides of Darkness. And then they'd send these other ones who would like blow things up. And you're like, "We're ready, master." They'd be these like weird, highly pitched guys. Anyway, they were great.
What's up, Dragon Eye 69? Hope you're doing good. I will leave your toys alone, I promise. And Eulers Workshop, have you been here before? I can't remember.
Eulers Workshop commented. I think maybe Trevor. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
he's great. He does
for the board exactly. Yeah, and then on YouTube it just said really enjoying. And Eulers Workshop said that you were thinking the same kind of thing, like doing like a sequential run through of some comics. And so he's happy that someone's doing it, and we're happy you're here. Thanks for sharing.
He does some great dioramas. He's got a YouTube channel that he'll walk you through how he makes things and stuff, and shares his knowledge. And he's fantastic. Does some great things. This is a custom 1/6.
Comments if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Workshop. That way I'll remember to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So you're going to show us Mad Max?
Mad Max.
So this is a custom 1/6 that I put together. So 1/6 customs are a whole other world too. Like that's a deep hole to get into.
Oh man, they look wild.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I haven't seen Mad Max movies except scenes of Thunderdome that were on television just playing as a kid.
Sure.
And then the newest one, the Fury Road.
You did see the newest one.
I saw that one in a theater, and I've rarely experienced anything as amazing as that.
Right? Wasn't that
viewing experience was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's the simplest plot of all time. We're going to drive from here to there, and then we're going to drive back.
We're just
the plot of every one of them. Well, except for Thunderdome. Well, no, Thunderdome too. Yeah, Thunderdome at the end.
How many actually are there?
There's 4 now. So Mad Max is different in that it was the first one, and it was kind of like him becoming who he was in the next movie. It was a little more.
Like, is it like a remake? Like, did they do like? Is it Road Warrior and then they do Mad Max? Like, he's the character.
No, Mad Max was the first one, and he was a cop. He was a former cop, and then it was a little more grounded in reality. It was pre-apocalypse,
Right.
Apocalypse. And then Road Warrior was a few years later.
Okay.
Where everything gone to shit at that point.
Right.
And you souped up cars and people with mohawks, and that's when it got good.
Yeah. And then they added Tina Turner.
And then they added Tina Turner, but I like that movie. I still like that movie. I think it's still good. I mean, I know it gets a lot of crap, but I still like that movie. It's still great.
YouTube showed me your channel. When I saw Trevor's stream, he said he was going to read on your channel. I was like, whoa, there you go. I'm glad that the algorithm is working for your Eulers Workshop.
Finally. Good Lord. I push the show all the time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Dragon Eyes, that I haven't seen those movies. I've seen a lot of other things, and you can't watch everything, but I'm working my way through it.
You've seen The Godfather.
Pardon me?
You've seen The Godfather.
Multiple times. That's one of those things. I also, when I watch something that I really when I love something, I watch it multiple times. Mm-hmm. So some people watch things only once and move on. The Godfather, I know my way around all three of them pretty well, but the first two obviously more than the third.
Yeah, third one I haven't watched since it came out, I think.
Rational. I saw the third one in theaters like as a younger. What was it like? Was it 95 or whatever year? So
something like that.
I was 20, but I still knew and still went. Oh man. 1 to 400 Amazing Spider-Man? Is that what, when you say ASM, you mean Amazing Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
That is, you know what? It's 52 weeks a year.
That's
you can get through it in a few years. You can do
That's the next show.
I did get the Marvel. I mean, I have a lot of comics, but I did get the Marvel Unlimited thing, and it's nice. I mean, the colors aren't great. It's all very vibrant and not the same. Like I like what you guys are doing with the oh, there you go.
Hello there, pulling around.
What's up, Kev?
Yeah, doing
the DVDs with the real color on it. Yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah, well, I guess the question is how many of these type of things did they produce, right? Like,
I don't know, and we can go on eBay and buy some more. Like I said, I have Hulk. I think I have Spider-Man. I have Avengers, and
then we have 10 more years of videos coming out. So I guess we're dedicated.
Yeah, I think I should get FF though. That's probably the one I really want to read. The first 100. And like you're talking about the vibrant colors. So for those who don't know, when it comes to comic books, of course, they were made as cheaply as possible. They still are made cheap, to be affordable and for production purposes. But newsprint, the paper they were all printed on, was the cheapest paper available, and they were printed with the cheapest ink available. Right. And that gave them a certain look, a certain aesthetic. And then the creators, the artists and the colorists that were working on the books made their color decisions based on the means of production, based on the fact that ink was going to get absorbed into the newsprint. So black wasn't going to be that black. And the 100% of the brightest colors being yellow, magenta, cyan, and black, they weren't going to come out that vibrant because the newsprint was absorbed and they're made cheaply. So when they take the same information, in theory, like 100% of magenta, and put it digital as opposed to absorbed into newsprint, it comes out very intense and garish. And there was a certain degree of clarity to it that I think one can appreciate. But there is, like I said, a degree of garishness or oversaturation.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to almost, add a 10% yellow to the whole thing and turn the saturation way down to make those images look anything like a comic book the way they were kind of intended.
And I wish that they would do that on this. I wish they had the option to give me
like a filter.
When you I don't know if you work in Photoshop or anything like that. You can do a setting that says, show me what it would look like on paper. Now it's a little false, but it's actually because you're used to looking at the screen and it's like, wow, everything's vibrant. Now everything looks very dull, but that's what it looks like. And I'd love to see like a yellow page and just like you said, desaturated colors. I'd love to read it like that.
I started tweaking that stuff when I learned more about it over the last few years, and I started taking a scan of a real sheet of newsprint and having a lot of things like those corner box pieces I would do, like having them have like a fake newsprint sheet and they're kind of behind it. So it looks like they are on newsprint. And then I desaturate colors as well to try and find that ground where it does feel nostalgic and looks kind of true. But sometimes you also want those 100% cyans to pop through, or the yellow to just,
it's a different reading experience. I just like to be able to go back to like the issues I have. It's fine. I can kind of read it on here and then go back and look at them in their, the form that it's nostalgia. It's just like, oh, that's what I read. Man,
I'm currently reading the Walter Simonson run on Thor. Two different ways. I'm reading it in the is it Marvel not Essentials, Epic collection. Okay. And they've been recolored in the spirit of the old ones, kind of, and I think they look really good, the Thor. And I'm also reading the original issues, and like I love the difference between them. And to me, they both work just in different ways. Yeah. And I imagine if I was to read an Epic collection of X-Men, I would hope it would do the same thing. That it's valid, it's artistically valid in both forms, but not the same. And right. I mean, as we're talking about, we're reading, as you alluded to, we're reading scans of those original issues. So although they're a little bit gritty, and pixelated a tiny bit, the aesthetic is correct for what someone would have experienced in 1978. I'm also reading it, in the black and white here in Essential.
I love that.
Crisp. They're crisp.
I love that.
I love it too.
Because reading the John Byrne, his extended, what is he calling that?
Elsewhen. We're talking about
Elsewhen or Elsewhere? Elsewhen. Yeah, Elsewhen. I hope you guys go through those because it's hard as hell to follow because I keep getting lost. Like I have to try and find the thread that I was on, but I love just seeing that in black and white, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is weird.
The stories are good, really good.
Yeah.
Good writer.
That John Byrne knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Eulers Workshop says I've got hard copies of issues 20 through 400.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of amazing.
Yeah, Jordan's had a lot of he's a comic book collector for sure, man. He's picked some nice
facsimiles of Amazing Fantasy 15 and 1 through 19. That's awesome that you've got that. I imagine the Marvel Tales would also, they've yellowed by now, those 1980s Marvel Tales, which are reprints of old Spideys. Right. I've got my hands on a couple of the Ditko ones. I think First Appearance of Sandman I have in Marvel Tales, and it feels like an old comic book, even though it costs $1, or whatever it was.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to be able to get my hands on those really, really old ones. But I don't think 1 through 400, like I said, it's just 8 years.
Yeah.
It's
really not much.
Is it 8 years? It's good. You can do it.
Well, you guys are going to go from 120 to 161 in a year. So that's 40 whole issues.
It's pretty incredible.
But that's once a week. So,
yes. Yeah. And did we watch the SheHulk trailer today? Yes, and yes.
Mm-hmm. And these guys just told me that it was out there. I didn't realize it was more than a poster. So
it scratches that itch in a big way. I was talking to a neighbor on my street who had not seen it yet. And we were just reminiscing of being a certain age and coming across SheHulk as a very Amazonian, statuesque, buxom character, and how I'll be honest, there was a poster that I got my hands on, drawn by Joe Jusko, painted by Joe Jusko, of her on like Muscle Beach.
I remember that. I totally remember that shot. Yep,
it was in the comic store, like my local as a kid. And Chris, I recommend you look this up right now.
Mm-hmm.
The last name is spelled Jusko, and so it's a Joe Jusko SheHulk, Muscle Beach, and she's just pumping iron in a reclining pose with everyone else, working their butts off to lift a quarter of what she's lifting. But it was just like this powerful figure, and no, she is such a fun.
That's almost. Sorry, I just looked at it right now. That almost looks to me almost like an Alex Ross type.
Oh, here it is.
Kind of new. The kind of like hyper realism, right?
So this was on my wall in 1988.
That's wonderful.
I was 13, but it was.
Of course, you were.
I think there's just something in that time period, and I always was. I had convinced myself that the woman in the background in the yellow top, or the orangish yellow top, was Kelly Preston from Twins. That's why who that was, because it was around the same time.
That's great.
Anyway, that's the little story for it. So yes, I watched that trailer. I thought it looked like a lot of fun. It looks like what I'm hoping for from the series. I don't have any grand expectations of it being the greatest television show of all time, but I just want to have a good laugh and enjoy a little bit of Marvel stuff that I never thought I'd ever see in a million years.
Yeah, me neither. And she's a she's a great actress, man.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see her in this.
Another example, I mean, obviously this is on Canadians' minds all the time, is we love when there are Canadians in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Torontonians are incredibly proud of Simu, you know, when he landed the role of Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
We're all excited for Miss Marvel. She's from Markham, that's where I'm from. It's like the town one over from me,
cool.
the city one over from me. So we're all like excited about
that.
Canadians in the MCU. And now with Tatiana Maslany, I think she's from Winnipeg.
Oh, wow.
So we're, you know,
I didn't know
another
that.
example. And we got Deadpool, of course.
Of course.
And that's a very specific theme to today because
you got SCTV, you know.
I was saying Marvel.
That bit about opening the soundboard and grabbing the sandwich at the beginning of SCTV is still classic.
I love that show, man.
Yeah.
I used to watch. That's what I was saying. Like on one of your shows, like I used to watch the Canadian broadcasting, whatever the hell it was,
CBC
all the time. The CBC, all the time.
Yeah,
for SCTV mainly. Yeah.
There would be a lot of TV not fit for broadcast.
Yeah,
by North American standards, but at the same time, you get some really strange, kitschy, like it felt like backwater TV, you know, and like
there was some weird stuff. But they had, I think they had Monty Python. I think they did reruns of every once in a while, and maybe Doctor Who. Maybe it wasn't Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They ran Doctor Who for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It was a very exciting place to grow up because you have like this weird stuff going on TV that's local, but we got all the American stuff too.
Yeah.
And so it, you know, especially in Southern Ontario, it felt like we were included in the American experience to some degree. But if we wanted to just go like this and put a line up or, you know, a plastic wall and just say like, you're over there, we're here, we could do that. But
lucky for you.
Listen, as much as
wall every once in a while,
as much as there are problems in, you know, around the world anywhere, I don't know any Canadians who reject all American culture. That's like a preposterous idea. There is so much great stuff like comics, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marvel Comics is a New York thing, and I can't imagine where I would be without all of the cultural artifacts coming out of New York. Just starting with that as one example.
Canadian culture rubbed off on me because this is one of my favorite teams in comics, and I can't.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about that, Trevor, because you mentioned when talking about the show and often the comments and participating in the show is that you know, Alpha Flight is one of your favorite teams. I was going to and you know, being, you know, just curious as to what drew you to Alpha Flight. I mean, maybe, you know, it's the Byrne stuff, but just curious what really.
You know what it was? I think I've analyzed this, and yes, it was the Byrne stuff. I love Byrne. Yeah, I know. I self-analyze a lot, and like I'm self-analyzing why I like a comic book now.
We do too.
But I think it was because I've always been drawn to like you know, you have the Avengers, you have the X-Men, but then there's like these teams in other countries. Like I love the Soviet super soldiers who are now like what are they called? What the hell are they called
Winter
now?
Guard?
Winter Guard. Yeah. But they were the Soviet super soldiers back in the day. And they were the bad guys, but I'm like, these guys are so cool. Like it's like they're X-Men in, you know, or the Avengers in Russia. But I think it was the idea that this was new. And I felt like I owned it because I was in the X-Men and I'm like, I have to figure out what's going on with the X-Men because I haven't been in since once, you know, I picked up old issues, but still only back to probably where we are now, like 130, 140. But Alpha Flight, I like owned, man, from like
ground floor.
And I freaking loved them. I knew everything about them, and then, you know, of course this is my comic book crush. Total comic book crush, man. I think it's the reason I married a brunette, actually, is because of Aurora.
Does she know that?
I don't think so, but that or Valerie Bertinelli, one of the two. I'm not really sure. She was like Valerie Bertinelli as a comic book character. So
that issue where it's Alpha Flight, maybe issue 20. I'm not sure the number, where one Walter Lankowski, the Sasquatch,
Mm-hmm.
changes her powers so that she no longer needs her brother's contact to generate light.
Oh, right.
Okay, so in Alpha Flight, I'm getting way ahead, but
Yep.
basically they do an experiment. She's in like a back to tank with a mask on.
Oh my
and
God!
she's
Yes.
naked, and Byrne
Yes.
draws
It's just like the water or whatever, the light
bubbles
that's
go around,
oh,
and the metal bands that hold the plexiglass in are strategically placed by the artist.
mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, I felt like
Tingly.
I blushed.
What'd you feel?
It was so revealing, but it was so great. He drew his women, beautifully, as you see with
Just
Aurora.
especially her. It was just her
Yeah,
hair and
copy
everything.
stuff for her.
Yeah. Anyway,
so
okay.
You're talking about crushes. I understand.
Yeah.
She was an adorable character,
and the way he wrote, where Claremont wrote her with the French Canadian accent and like the ne sais pas, and it was like, oh my God.
This team is full of stereotypes, and
I'm sure. For me, it wasn't a stereotype.
Right.
It was just like, I guess this is what's going on in Canada.
Oh, totally, exactly what's going on in Canada. But no, she's great. I love North Star and Aurora as well. They were hugely important to me, as a youngster. Should we dive in?
I think we probably should.
All right, so we've got this issue here, issue 120 from Uncanny X-Men. Not a Byrne cover,
no,
and not a Cockrum cover either. It's Bob Budiansky, but that's just how it is. Exactly. It feels very much like a Dave Cockrum cover in a lot of ways.
It does.
But when I look at some of the character renders, I'm thinking to myself, they don't resemble the model exactly. Nightcrawler is missing his. Here, let me actually full screen that one. Nightcrawler is missing the black piece down the middle, like the V.
Yeah.
Like where his neck and collar would be.
Yep.
And Wolverine is miscolored. He's just above his collarbone. He's flesh. Either way, and he's really broad in this one, which is fine. It's all good. But it's still neat to see. And then, choosing that purple light for Alpha Flight I guess they're in an airport, in an airplane hangar. That's how in hindsight.
I dig that. I like that.
And Shaman, like, gritting his teeth as if he's going to punch someone in the face.
Yeah, which is totally not Shaman. You know what I mean? It's like...
Does not match this character whatsoever. From the one that I know, like, after reading 50 issues with that character in my life. So who knows? Hello, Winger Lose. How you doing, man? Glad you're here.
It's got a little bit of a Sunday Comics feel when you zoom into the characters. It's a little simple, but I mean the poses are nice.
Yeah, they're a little awkward. If you look at where Cyclops and Colossus is, both of their right legs are on the same.
Oh, you're right.
And Colossus is half the size of Cyclops.
Oh, you're right. He's like at least 4 feet behind him, and they're on the same thing. So you'd pick that up. That's great.
Eulers Workshop says that not as informed on Alpha Flight, but you have this comic. That's awesome. And you enjoy Puck and Sasquatch and the other stuff I've read. Yeah, Puck was a favorite character of mine as well at the time. And then, there's an episode of X-Men, the animated series, that merges this storyline combined with the story from X-Men 109 combined with Weapon X.
Oh,
it's a whole mishmash where, they go back to get Wolverine, just like what the plot of this is, but they do it in a really, really weird, like a streamlined way to get all the stories together. So they want to like get his skeleton back, not just the character. And
did you like X-Men the animated series? I forget.
Okay, so I
don't want to go off on a tangent because I
didn't. Our tangent is X-Men, so I think that's perfect. I think I find things about it that I like.
Yes.
I do not like. I don't think it's well made, but I watched it as an 18-year-old comparing it to Batman the animated series.
Oh, so no comparison.
There's no comparison. But if I was 6 years old, I would have been crazy for that show. It would have meant the same thing to me at 6 or 7 that G.I. Joe did when I was 7 or 8,
But you were probably reading the comics before you saw the show, right?
I had read comics and stopped reading comics by the time the show started.
Yeah,
So,
and as like I started watching it, I'm like, this. I was so excited for it, and I started watching. I'm like, this is not the X-Men. What is this? What is this?
well,
No, they're serious. This is adult. I don't know. I was expecting more from it. I don't know.
it really wasn't for us as viewers.
No, I know.
It was for the kids that were, watching Fox TV on a Saturday morning at the time, and they loved it. Clearly,
I know.
Right?
Yep.
So I've tried to watch it through that lens, and I've watched the series twice over with my daughter on Disney Plus, and I really wanted it to be good, and so I bump up against the animation and I bump up against some of the story and pacing, but I try and find the things about it that like the kid in me would really respond to. So
that's interesting. I'm going to go back and watch this because I didn't realize that was in there. I don't think I got that far.
It's called Repo Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Repo Man. The episode. Now, interestingly, so when this came out, when the animated series came out, just on that note, I was, Jason. I am younger than Jason, even though we are comic book collaborators. I am younger than he is, and but I was about 12 or 13 when that came out, and so for me, because I didn't read X-Men, I immediately was like drawn to it because I'm like, all right, 12, 13. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Absolutely going to watch something. And it introduced me though to all these storylines because they drew from. So like my first taste of Days of Future Past is in the 90s series. My first taste of Alpha Flight, I think honestly is in that series. And like all these things, I didn't know what a Sentinel was. I didn't know any of that Genosha, like any of that stuff. So they really do mine this run. Huge. I mean, they have artistic choices, and definitely the animation does not hold up at that point. And but I was always like, I knew Wolverine to be orange and the orange and tiger stripe costume,
tan and brown.
And I was like, yellow and blue. What is this all about? I don't understand this. So it really did. I mean, for someone who was like completely new to the X-Men. It really set the template in my head for like the X-Men. And so, but now going back, I'm like,
I think it's like it was like with the movies. Like I just wanted to see that translated to either animation or real life. And when the Phoenix story, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get it, and like, oh, we didn't get it. It's not. No, this is not it. You know what I mean? No. So hopefully we'll get that someday.
Being as Eulers Workshop is saying, like being in the pocket at that right age,
exactly.
It's so fun because that becomes the version that you are now looking at everything else through the lens, whereas we're looking at the series through the lens of we're looking at the X-Men brand through the lens of this run. If you start with the animated series, then you look at the rest of the X-Men franchise through the lens of the animated series. I love that a lot of those animated series episodes are translations of these Claremont Byrne stories, but through the design of the Jim Lee team. The Wolverine's back in the tiger stripe, so to speak, and the characters. Rogue has the costume from that time period. Jubilee is there. Cyclops has the design from Jim Lee. So it's like the Byrne X-Men stories with Claremont through the Jim Lee design, and then made for children on the Saturday morning in 22 minutes.
Yeah,
it's like a really
hot take.
Strange.
Hot take. I hated Morph.
Hated. I don't think anyone liked Morph.
No. I think people love Morph. No,
well, do you think they love him because it's like?
Or is it just nostalgia? I don't know.
It's nostalgia.
Everybody wants the figure, and I'm like, I hated that character. Well, all right, anyway.
We need that figure to complete your set. He's like a missing piece, Like who can have a New Hope without Grand Moff Tarkin figure? Like you need that missing just to finish it up.
Yeah, I do have to say, when we were at Fan Expo in Toronto in 2019, a dude was walking around as animated series Bishop.
Oh, cool.
And he was awesome. And like he walked by, we got photos with him. He's like, dude, I had to have the Jerry curl. He was on top of it, and it looked incredible.
That 90s look was built for that, though. That's like totally for a cartoon. The giant guns and the shoulders and like gotta have the pauldrons in it.
Before we go any further, tell me that you guys have seen the photograph of Gary Coleman. Yes, that Gary Coleman. Oh, you guys don't know. Okay. Look up.
I don't know.
Now. Just look up right now on your computer. Gary Coleman, X-Men Bishop. Boom.
No.
Just do it. Do it right now.
You sure you want to go down this road?
Yes.
Oh my God. What?
Okay, can
hell?
you bring that up?
Wait a minute. What the hell is this? What is this?
So-
Oh my God. So okay,
Well, how
wait a
you
minute.
doing,
So
buddy?
it's not him as Bishop, but it's
not.
It's
So-
Bishop as Gary Coleman.
Can one of you guys pull up?
yeah, I'm
the third
trying to
screen and
like
I'll
the
add it in.
stupid site is not allowing me to.
So the background here is that the
You got it?
no, I'm just talking the story.
Stop.
I'm trying to think. Remember who designed the costume? Is it Francis Manipal? Is it whoever designed the costume for Bishop? Clearly saw
Okay,
this
I'm gonna
ad,
bring this up.
and they just
Yes.
took the ad.
This is amazing.
Amazing.
This is amazing.
We're 20 years ahead of ourselves on this, but we're adding it anyway. So
Like the bandana.
so the design for Bishop 100% comes from this image of Gary Coleman,
That
who
is
old enough
amazing.
to remember played a character named Arnold on Different Strokes, which was a primetime sitcom in the late 70s, early 80s about two boys from Harlem who get adopted by a Park Avenue millionaire. And it is problematic as a show, but it was a staple of American sitcom life in the early 80s. And of course, with the catchphrase, "What you talking about?"
What you talking about, Willis?
So this is the inspiration for Bishop's costume. And once you see this,
Wow.
you cannot unsee it.
Cannot unsee it.
I thought
And the
you were
Electric Company magazine, it's all coming flowing back. Oh my God.
I thought
So-
you were going to say, "Have you seen Gary Coleman cosplay as Bishop?" And I was like,
Well,
That's what I thought I
Whoa.
was going to see. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that timeline's wrong. I'm not really sure what the hell's going on there. Wow.
So,
This is
again, someone has
weird,
to
man.
fact check me on who the artist is who co-created Bishop. Whether
Has
it
Bishop
was,
always had those lines on there, though?
well,
Or was that? I feel like the artist who did this totally had this in mind. Because come on, it's the same angle and everything, man. It's
So
that's
Bishop
weird.
Bishop creators, according to Google, are Jim Lee, John Byrne, and I want to say Wilche Portaccio.
Will
Oh, yeah.
Portaccio. Okay,
Will
so I think it's Will
Portaccio,
who
Okay,
comes
there
up
you
with this costume.
yeah. Mhm.
You know, Chris, we had the chance to meet Wills at the last Fan Expo in 2019.
go. Oh, did we?
I went and said hi to him.
That's cool.
You know, he was just chilling. He's one of
Talented
the Image founders who he had a family emergency and kind of pulled out of making comics for a little while in that time period. But he was there in like Jim Lee's heyday on X-Men, working from Jim Lee's studio and finishing pages and doing all sorts of work together, and did a good run on X-Men that a lot of people love. And that's where this character comes from. So I think Wills is probably the guy to ask.
There you go.
David Cutler in the comments says Will's Portaccio confirmed that this was a subconscious inspiration.
There you go. Then we can leave it at that as saying subconscious inspiration. Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Sure.
I'm happy with it, but there's no doubt. That is crazy.
That is crazy. I've never seen that.
Bizarre.
Yes, the
Incredible.
magazine had Spider-Man comics in it. Of course, Spider-Man was on the Electric Company. That was
Well, the Electric Company also, what? Oh, God. I forgot his name.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, the voice of God. Yes.
Yes, he
It
was
was Easy Reader
player
on
that
Electric
show.
Company.
It was really weird to seeing the Spider-Man stuff because Spidey couldn't talk on that show.
Yeah, it was weird.
So characters would talk. He would speak in word balloons,
Mhm.
and it was typical like 1970s entertainment for children that feels very drug inspired. Yeah, it was a really strange one. Yeah, that was a crazy image. So I'm glad that people are.
That's great. I love that. Thank you for that.
Never gonna not unsee that.
No, I know. I'm going to dream about that tonight, probably.
Yeah, it's just super cool. All right, so
All
X-Men comics, we can do this.
Should we go in?
Now I want an image of Bishop with a train cap, with a conductor's cap on.
I bet you someone has drawn it somewhere, like
Probably.
someone could ask for a commission of that
For sure.
from an artist. So let's go in.
All right,
The
let's do
Austin, Canada.
I
It
love
only
this
took us
opening.
55 minutes to get here, boys.
And yet people are still watching. That's a good sign.
Yes. So yeah, we get our little description at the top, which we've seen in every issue we've read so far, the Uncanny X-Men. In this one, they have the author co-plotter's penciler
Mhm.
moniker for those for John Byrne and Chris Claremont, reverse order, pardon me, and Terry Austin is inker. Tom Orzechowski on letters and Glennis Ween on colors. There you go. And Stern and Shooter editing team. And we've got, starting in the war room of the Canadian Ministry of Defense in Ottawa. And if you look closely,
I know who that is.
It
Ottawa.
is misspelled.
Ottawa.
It says Ottawa. It should the second vowel should be an A and not an O.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just going to check for fun and see if it's been corrected in Classic X-Men. Which, of course, it has.
Okay.
But Classic X-Men looks good. It's the same coloring and everything. It's beautiful, but yeah, they corrected that one letter. And for those of you who don't live in Canada, it's like a normal tourist attraction for us Canadians to visit the war room in the Ministry of Defense, and it looks just like this.
And talk to the Prime Minister. And talk to the Prime Minister.
It's
like, you know, Trudeau, correct?
Go to the Empire State Building.
Trudeau, for sure. Father of current Canadian Prime Minister.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Anyway, I think that's just
nepotism there.
I love Byrne's tech. He does awesome original inspired tech. Yep. You get more of that domed kind of helmet stuff from the technician, just like we saw in last issue, and even way back in 109, very Star Wars inspired. I think that's tons of fun. Very shoddy editing, Jim Shooter. Yeah, but I would blame Roger Stern first. I think Stern's got his hands in the book, but I'm not surprised to get a Canadian city name wrong.
Do you think John Byrne got like one picture of Pierre Trudeau though, and like kind of based it off that? Because this really doesn't.
It's weird.
It's a very.
I feel like he was looking at newspaper caricatures, political cartoons, political cartoons.
Yes. True enough. Yeah.
If we go to the next page, you'll see even more, and it's just so exaggerated. Like that
is crazy,
right?
My copy here, I have the original one, and my copy is like it's printed on an angle. So there's a huge, or it's cut on an angle, actually. My bottom cut is really bizarre. Anyway, so it's so strange to read it like this. Just wanted to note on the first page that they call him Weapon. They call Weapon X is of course Wolverine, and this is maybe one of the very few times that he gets called that in the early run of the character's life. We get that first appearance in Giant Size. We get it when James McDonald Hudson, also Guardian or Vindicator or Weapon Alpha, goes to get him back in 109. They call him Weapon X, but here's an early use of that name. And just reminding, they do not call Hudson by a superhero name in this issue. They don't refer to him as Weapon Alpha. As Weapon Alpha anymore. But we'll get to that as they continue to reference him with a strange nickname. Mm-hmm. And yes, the Mandroids are here. If there's some Mandroid love,
the Mandroids.
Yes. So Hudson doesn't exactly know a lot about who the X-Men are. Like they've kind of they're under the radar. Comparing them to other superhero teams like the Avengers. Talk about how they have a loose connection to the U.S. government. And going after him is going to cause problems, but the Prime Minister of Canada is adamant. We need to get Weapon X back, no matter what, even if it's unreasonable, because he'll just leave. Like they'll get him back, and then he'll just walk away.
They have, and what I like already about this is that they're already, which we'll talk about through this issue, is they're already setting up so in 109 when there's the first interaction with Wolverine and Guardian or Weapon Alpha or Hudson at the time, it's really, I'm here to take you back. It's all conflict. You don't really understand motives to sense. It's a fight. It's a brawl in the woods. And this one we're already seeing, he's like, hey, but Wolverine resigned. He's like we're already seeing conflict within Hudson. And we see this. This is one of the things that really this issue is that we are presented, and we will be more so with a team that is clearly not an enemy of X-Men, but they are an unknown. But when they often bring it up multiple times, where it's like, as we get into the book, we'll see more. But just what exactly are we doing here? Like there's the internal conflict on a super tier team about with people from an allied country, right? So it's a good way to play it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that's. Again, plays into why I like this. It was like it was a gray area, right? These guys were good guys. I mean, you know, I understood who Canada was back then, and it's like, oh, they were really good at setting up these deep stories ahead of time and stretching them out forever. Like, what is this? Why is he okay? He's Canadian, but why was he with these guys? Who are these guys? It was great. I just love the mystery that he set up with these things.
Was such a huge fan of the idea that they get a signal. That they're like
Oh, right.
a signal. It's later explained in, I think, Alpha Flight #1 that when these cards, that's a stack of cards that he's putting into the computer with his right hand, and it sends out a ping, and each of them has a chip embedded at the base of their skull, and like, you know, behind the ear, that kind of, you know, they get a little sensation that they've been called, and then they would use their powers to either transport or fly to
because they are across the country.
It's a very big country, coast to coast.
Yeah.
I just love that idea that you get a signal, like the call to adventure is like a very archetypal piece of heroic stories, and I'm always moved by those kinds of things. So I love the idea that they get the signal, and Hudson would put in as many or as few specific file cards or signal cards as he needed for the adventure. If he only wants 2 characters, he puts 2 cards in, and those 2 characters come. So I was just into this early. It's direct messaging, instant messaging. So I was into that whole thing. I love also how Snowbird specifically, she's looking up and to the right, like, oh, I felt the signal, like something's there, but he never explains that. I love that it had that sensation.
I love that whole bottom. Like he told so much story about a team that you knew nothing about before this, and it's so good. I mean, okay, Byrne's drawing his children as Tolkien dwarves again, but
it's his style. We'll get over it, but we won't time.
But other than that panel, I love it. Like, you know who, you know, Jean-Paul, you know, is, and you know who everybody is. You get a sense of their character even within these drawings. It's fantastic.
So for those who don't know these characters, we'll just go through really quickly and tell you. Jean-Paul Bobier is a professional ski champion, and he is North Star. So his power is super speed through like flight.
Let's just pause there for a minute. And
sure.
Notice that he is surrounded by women.
Well, he's supposed to be very attractive and always signing autographs. So he's filling in. It's hard. You can't see
true. He is
autograph book.
That's true. Oh, right.
He's got an adoring fan base. And of course, back then we had a very, very competitive ski team. Our national ski team was like, they were known as like the Crazy Canucks. Chris, this is probably before your time too. Do you remember the Crazy Canucks?
I do.
Steve Podborski and all those guys. So even they were like known internationally. So a Canadian ski champion would be not too far off of some of the celebrity experiences that were actually happening up here. We've got Dr. Michael Two Young Men, who lived on the Sarcee Reserve in Alberta, and his character's name is Shaman or Shaman, depending how you want to pronounce. I think as a kid I always said Shaman, but I've probably softened on that over the years. We've got Corporal Anne McKenzie from the RCMP, who is complicated. She is a demigoddess. And goes by the name Snowbird, and she can transform into any animal within the boundaries of Canada. And of course, I find that a little strange.
Is that the power set?
Or the
limitation, I should say.
The limitation of her power. She's like sensitive to all things magical, and can, you know, cross into some magical realms and things like that. But of course, the border between Canada and the States is a construct. It's made by people and decisions. It's not something where there's anything natural about that border. So I find it funny. Maybe if it had been like proximity to the Arctic, like she steps away from the Arctic, that's where her power fades. But eventually we will get a story where she goes over the border and like she gets weak when she leaves Canada. So she's really bound to the land.
Almost like elemental.
Yes, yes, and her mother is Nelvana, I believe.
I believe so.
Maybe I have it wrong. Like, it's been a while since I've read her origin story, but So she's in like her human guise at the moment. And then we get Dr. Walter Lankowski, who was a former All-Pro linebacker. And
in the CFL, no less.
That's right.
Of course. And he's, like Bruce Banner kind of contemporary, so much so that they know each other. And so he did experiments with gamma rays as well to like study Banner's stuff. And he somehow breaks a magical barrier and connects to the primal beast or ancient beast that they call Sasquatch, but it's not a Bigfoot. It's not a Sasquatch. It's just an ancient beast that they nickname Sasquatch because of the way it appears and the fact it's in the wilderness in Canada and such. So he's the big orange furry dude. And then lastly, but not least, we get Jean-Marie Bobier, twin sister of Jean-Paul, with the identical power set of super speed through flight. And her character is a little bit fractured in that she has some identity dissociative disorder or dissociative identity disorder, DID, some split personality, they probably would have said back then. Right. And so she has a really prim and proper school teacher side. And then she has a more wild, fun-loving Aurora side. And when her and her brother make physical contact, they create a blinding burst of light. I think that's all the origin, all the background.
She may be the reason I picked the wrong girls in high school. I'm not sure.
Maybe, but we got to take responsibility for that now. Looking back. Okay. Right. So the X-Men are half a world away in Japan. They've just finished their adventure, saving the island archipelago nation of Japan from the Magnum Force of Moses Magnum.
And the Magnum Force.
Yes. And they're leaving Sunfire behind, as well as Sunfire's adolescent cousin, Mariko Yoshida, who has made a connection with our good friend Wolverine. So as the team leaves, we should also maybe let the reader know Banshee, exhausted. He pushed himself to his absolute limits. Yeah. His throat is raw. He was in a coma for 10 days, I think, and or at least in hospital for 10 days, including a stretch of coma. And so he's recovered to a degree. He's walkable,
and you can identify that because of the word balloon that he speaks.
Yeah, that's
right. It's broken as if he's whispering.
As if he's whispering. Have you practiced your Irish accent?
Right, here we go. Done with the ceremonies, are you, wee laddie?
There we are, Banshee.
That was kind of strange. I don't know.
Come on, people. Let's board that plane.
Wait a minute. Wait a moment, Cyclops. Where's Wolverine?
And so we look over, and Wolverine is stalking. Going to say goodbye to Shiro Yoshida's cousin, Mariko. And he taps on the glass and gives her a flower, a white chrysanthemum. And I'm going to just pretend it's all sweet and innocent and not talk about how awkward the age is. I want to get over it because I want to still enjoy it, because it's supposed to be kind of the purest that Wolverine is, the most genuine and emotionally vulnerable that the character gets. So if we make it too devious, it kind of,
she seemed older when I picked up the in that 161 or whatever it was. Like I don't know. They made her seem older. I don't know at that point. I didn't realize she was supposed to be that young before.
I think in that first, her first panel or second panel, they kind of mentioned that she's a teenager still, and so it seemed. Yeah. But after that, they don't play her young.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems that it's all well and good, and there isn't a strange power imbalance because of age. But there is at this point. But again, we'll just get past it for the sake of enjoying it. So Wolverine's given her a gift, something to remember him by, and she comments that he's beautiful. Yes, that's so nice. No one ever says that he's beautiful. That's nice.
That smile is very. Doesn't that put you off on Wolverine? It's like
toothy.
What is that? No. I mean, just the fact that he just has that happy hey. That's you never see that on Wolverine. He's never that happy.
He must be feeling really, really great. And he tells her his real name, and they move on. And off they go through the storm, off they go through the clouds, leaving Japan on the way over the Pacific Ocean. And it's uneventful. But then we get that joke I was making about characters using their names before. the two pilots are. Oh, also you need to mention they're flying on.
Yeah.
You guys have seen Iron Fist.
On Carrie-Anne Moss's jet.
Yeah.
Is that who it is?
That's Jerry Hogarth, isn't it? Isn't that the lawyer from the Iron Fist and Jessica Jones series?
And Jessica Jones, yep. They gender swapped her for that though.
I didn't realize.
Okay.
Yeah, Jaren is a guy in the comic books. Yeah.
I had just assumed I was
male
thinking,
lawyer.
You know the brother and sister on Iron Fist? That
Lloyd, no, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I was just assuming it was them, and I didn't think twice. But you're absolutely right. It's Carrie-Anne Moss, Canadian.
Another
Whole
Canadian.
Canadian theme to this.
But
issue.
I don't know who Annie and Jill are. Like
They're-
I looked these up.
You're gonna
like,
find out
I-
later who they are.
Do we?
Again, getting names again.
in 6
yeah,
years,
in
they
a couple
come back.
issues. That's right. They've got mechanical arms. and-
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just
Remember us,
another
X-Men?
example of Claremont maybe
What a
overwriting.
callback.
Yeah, it's crazy. David Cutler says, "Man, I wish I had the original of these. The colors look 100 times better than the saturated omnis and the omnibus.
Definitely.
And you need that newsprint to soak the ink up." I think a lot of people would agree with you, but yeah, it's gonna, it costs a little bit of an arm and a leg to get these, but it's a fun thing to pursue. Just don't give yourself, I think, a short deadline. Like give yourself a decade and buy a couple every year when you're at an event or a store or something like that, and work your way through the run. But they really are
Get a rough copy of this for $30-$40, I think.
Yeah, there's no. If you're using it as a reader, make sure it's not behind plexiglass. I'm reading an original now that I haven't opened in 20 years, and it's a real pleasure. They look great, they really do.
Yeah.
So it's worth. So that Annie and Jill are the two pilots, and this plane is a custom. Like it's Byrne didn't want to have to draw some lame old plane. He wants to have some nice curved lines and no hard edges.
Of course.
So
Pretty progressive though to have two female pilots though. I have to give them.
It stood out to me as well, and it totally is progressive. Does it tell us something about this Jaron Hogarth character? Is he a bit of a playboy?
Yeah, they're both. It's like Charlie's Angels or something going on
Right,
there. You know what I mean?
right. And then isn't he is he funding the Daughters of the Dragon or Heroes for Hire? Is he like a benefactor in some way?
I think being the lawyer for Iron Fist's family, I guess I don't know if he was just there as a legal backup every time they kick somebody's ass, or Misty pulled a gun on somebody or something. I don't know.
So okay, they're flying back and they realize that there is something unnatural or supernatural that is impeding their flight to any other spot but Canada.
That's right.
So they can't get to San Francisco. They can't go to Honolulu in Hawaii. So
we get a Claremont-esque description of all the cities on the west coast of Canada and the United States. If you didn't know, here's your geography lesson, kids.
So
That was good as a kid though. Like,
Yes.
I'm like, oh, okay. See.
So Storm comes in her bathrobe or her nightgown or something, and she's going to use her powers to change the weather, as one would expect.
Sure.
And let me ask you guys a question. Sorry to dwell on these things, but is Storm naked there? Like,
Yes.
Jesus,
Because
Yes.
yeah, I think so.
Yes, she is.
that's awesome. Or come on, Byrne, like come on, every time. So,
I mean, it's implied she's holding it together basically as she walks up to the front. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what she's doing in a plane. I mean, are you taking a shower? What's going on there?
She makes her own showers all the time.
Oh, that's true.
That's the other thing we've
Good
learned.
call.
She uses her powers inside the plane, which I imagine creates
What the hell is
maybe
that?
some tension, but outside the plane is where her focus is. So it's not, not like there's wind inside, but
Right.
she's inside when she uses her powers. And I guess there's a gap between her and the actual impact of her power, like maybe 20 feet or 30 feet before it actually a buffer zone. She can do that because she's that powerful. The pilot says, "Yep, tearing the plane apart. You got to stop." So
Okay, I love that panel because, like,
that face.
I only wish she called him Mister. That would have been
Oh,
the
yeah.
ultimate kickback. You know what I mean? Like that would have been
yeah.
great.
So
In your face, Summers.
We've noticed, of course, just to, over explaining your comment there to the audience, that Cyclops often calls other characters Mister, we think it's in a derogatory way. That's how we read it. So she's doing the same thing using his last name. And if she had said Mister, it would have been great. Just
and very cool, by the way, to have Storm's power set encounter a similar power set in this scenario, right? She's like, why can't I challenge this?
Yes.
Because something else is going on. And what's another thing about this, as we'll get in, is like the sets of the members of Alpha Flight are high. Like they're depicted like this is, create a storm of this nature and just have like direct an entire plane is like, that's some power.
Yeah.
The only way you beat them in terms of their power level is if the writer writes a way to beat them. Like on their own, if they're actually skilled people, Shaman can do like Doctor Strange level magic if he wants to.
Right.
And Snowbird has deity powers, and Sasquatch, as we're going to see,
Hulk level
power. So they're really, really formidable if the writer writes them that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And North Star and Aurora hit like Quicksilver level speed. So
And if you put all those, well, first of all, you just described the Defenders or the Avenger, like whatever, Hulk, Quicksilver, Strange, but like, you put those guys on a team and you've got Saving the Universe.
Yeah. Let's do that. I want to read that book too. Anyway,
we should write that book. Let's write that book.
So they move toward Canada. And even Wolverine shows up on the cockpit there, nice and short. And they land in Calgary.
Yeah.
And the runway, is it icy? Is that what's happening there? Or is they landing fine? I don't want to sit here and read all the details again.
I think it's fine. I think they landed okay. It's just
right, because there's a man on the tarmac there.
Yeah.
And someone gets a name again. Walt. No, it's not Walt Langowski, it's another Walt. And
right.
It's
very confusing.
The special operations team, or that special operations team. I love to think of them. And by the way, if you look really closely, I don't know if you can see this in your copy there, Chris.
Oh, I can. Is the name tag?
The name tag on the and operating the microphone in the control tower, it says Shooter, in reference, of course, to Jim Shooter, the editor-in-chief. And this is not the first time I've seen that in one of my favorite comics. Famously, in in G.I. Joe #1, there is a display board with all the characters that they are going to recruit for the mission, that they're going to activate for the operation. And they have all their portraits, and then there's one name without a portrait that says Shooter. And obviously it's in reference to Jim Shooter, but they've retconned that there is a character now in the original G.I. Joe team named Shooter that was a sniper that no one ever got to see. And she stayed behind and saved all their lives in their first mission.
Apropos for Shooter, actually.
Yeah.
Sniper that you didn't get to see.
For sure. Hold on. Jason, are you saying that I'm sucking up, or that John Byrne and Chris Claremont are sucking up? What's going on? If you're going to call out names here, I mean, I want to know what you're really trying to say.
I think he's calling out Claremont.
Yeah. Well, it's Byrne was famously at odds with Shooter.
Oh, yeah.
At least by the end, right?
Everybody was at odds with Shooter, I think, at the end.
For sure. Maybe they're also just making fun and just throwing his name in. Who knows? A little pity. I always had a problem reading this one as a kid. I never like when James McDonald Hudson is framed as an ass or as a jerk.
Yeah.
For me, he was a reluctant and righteous hero. And to see him standing there, like an ass trying to block an airplane, it always bothered me. But I get that's what his role is in the issue.
And he's being that national hero, he's doing what the prime minister has asked him to do. So he's, I don't know. He doesn't come off as an ass like Cyclops does, honestly.
I also love the idea that we're meant to believe that he is yelling from outside of a plane and they can hear him inside the cockpit. You'll have to speak up. We can't hear you. They open the little side window. What?
We've already got one, you see?
That's really funny. And, Wolverine, as always, gets enraged and pops his claws. He's trying to protect his friends to stay out of it, actually, in this case.
Right.
He wants to go fight and keep them out, which is, gallant of him. And Cyclops has little patience. Sheathe your claws, Wolverine. This isn't the time or place for a rumble. Well, you're right, but you're not going to get what you want. So they're they come to a halt, and the X-Men all get woken up. If they're coming to a complete halt, and I love these rooms that they come out of.
Yeah, what kind of plane is this?
Yeah,
it's a cave plane.
And and if you notice, Peter Colossus comes out
also in his robe.
Also,
so I'm gonna pretend.
Oh, you
shenanigans
dirty.
going on there?
That he's naked. But Nightcrawler, of course, has to wear the same stinky jumpsuit he's been wearing.
Yeah, he's never out of that outfit ever, except for Christmas.
Yeah. And what does Banshee say there, Chris?
Oh, okay. Hold on. Here we go. What's happening? I thought we were safe on the ground, but now the ship's shaking like a mixmaster.
I'll take a look out the window, see if I can spot anything. My God! Banshee Colossus, over here. The landing lights show a man in shadow. He's beneath the plane, and I think he's stopping it with his bare hands.
Awesome.
I don't know how that looks like a man, though. I mean, it's
yeah,
a hairy ape.
Wow.
So they talk about hefting a 250-ton aircraft as if it weighed nothing. Now, I mentioned before that I think maybe we were talking to Scott Chandler, but we were talking about the player's handbook, like the role-playing handbook, that had a ranking of all the characters' strengths.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and anyone in the chat, if you know about this as well, I think they kind of maxed out at 100 tons or more. So like Hulk and even like Silver Surfer, they were up at the very top. And characters like Colossus, the Thing, and Sasquatch were like one tier down.
Right.
And they were like the 75, 80-ton range. So I don't want to harp on inconsistencies because none of this is real. But the idea that he's that strong is so much more powerful.
Yeah.
I think the consensus ends up being, even within 3-4 years, they like power him down a little bit.
Well, that's what I mean. Like he's making a plane not move, and then he's just throws it like it's nothing.
Yeah,
like that should be enough. Forget Guardian, just get that guy on your team.
Right.
Like, don't need anybody else.
Yeah. So, so they don't call this character. They don't call Hudson anything other than Hudson yet.
Right.
But remembering again, he was called Weapon Alpha.
Yeah.
And we know he's going to be called Vindicator at some point, and then Guardian by issue 2 of Alpha Flight. I think he changed the name to Guardian in an effort to rebrand. But we're going to read something odd coming up in a moment. Yeah, Nightcrawler can bamf right into his costume. Win or lose reminds us as for fun.
That's true.
Like,
there you go.
Unstable molecules, everybody. Unstable molecules.
That's right.
I could not read that second panel as a kid to save my life. I could not understand how the plane or those pieces, because I just see a few pieces. There's no fuselage in that image in the second panel.
No.
I see, like, obviously, same things you guys all see, but it really, really troubled me as a kid. I didn't understand how he
Smaram?
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when a plane goes into an old abandoned wooden.
Yeah, Trevor.
I think that's when I dropped spaghetti on the floor.
But I do want to comment based on last week's show that the lettering is included in the image, and I think it's a more powerful form of storytelling in this case to have it in there. I think it looks good.
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
I also the ads you just passed over, other than the biking one. The safety wing that goes on the side of your bike. It's the art books that there's some really cool comic art books there that look great. And
that is the number one thing missing from the Marvel app is the ads. I'm really disappointed.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And this is
great.
Workshop says, "Noram is the sound a John Byrne drawing makes when failing."
I love this last panel. You got to read this.
Sasquatch, you incredible lummox! I told you to stop that plane, not smash it.
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, go.
Yeah, go. No, go.
Oh, sorry about that, Vindicator. I guess I still don't know my own strength.
He's a doctor, by the way.
Except, okay, but that's
Maybe not
how
in
he
this form.
talks in the
Right.
Repo Man episode. That's the voice they give
Right.
him in the animated series. Wolverine, we're here
Oh,
to
do
take
they?
you home.
Oh, that's terrible. Lummox. I love the word lummox.
So you would do a good voicing of a lummox, no doubt.
That's cool.
I also really love when Vindicator flies. I like the effect around him, and I love how it'd be like these tight angles he could take. You know, his suit is supposed to kind of separate him from some of the forces that work against like gravity and I guess I don't know. It's an electromagnetic force that he has.
And
it's a catch-all.
That's Canada's ass right there.
First panel on page 15.
Look at that.
It's Canada's ass.
But see, I love where it takes the story because now he's like, oh crap, like this is we gotta find we gotta make sure no one's hurt. We gotta we now know that we're getting again this idea that this team isn't meant to be an enemy. It's like crap. We got to make sure that no one gets hurt, which is okay, that's what a hero does. Okay, so now we've got these conflicting teams, and then we get the power set again, where it's like Shaman's like, this isn't me.
It's like he wanted to do the right thing, but he didn't think it through. Like, oh wait, what if he doesn't just walk out and give himself up? It's like, that's gonna be a problem.
So here he mentions about the Hulk being that powerful, so it gives the reader some context. I just from an art point of view, I also really love that second panel on page 15. I love that blue and him flying in front of that blue stormy sky. It looks really, really great. And his landing pose in the next panel, I find awesome. I love the movement of it. Just so Byrne-esque, like the hands both in that land. He has this landing pose. He does it with North Star a lot, with Submariner. I would see that kind of pose from him as well. I really love his flying and landing poses. You're Snuffleupagus. If you guys ever are fans of stand-up comedy or Saturday Night Live, a lot of comedians talk about how the key to finding their impersonations or their impressions they do of people. Like you listen to Dana Carvey talk about how he did, how he found his George Bush Sr. voice or all those things. So for anyone trying to do a Sasquatch voice, you have to find Snuffleupagus and then add a little bit of Canadian accent to, a little Bob and Doug McKenzie with Snuffleupagus. Yeah. And that's how you find Sasquatch.
There you go.
Take off a
yo hoser.
That's exactly it. So Vindicator surveys the wreckage, which didn't explode, thankfully.
And is this the first time when he talks to Shaman that we see he's named as Vindicator?
Well, in the previous panel or the previous page, Sasquatch calls.
Oh, I guess Sasquatch. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, and so the plane is empty, and right away the storm, it doubles in its intensity as Vindicator narrates for us, and he goes and finds Shaman, who is in shadow and in snow and wind, so we don't get a full reveal of his appearance, which is fine. So they're shown in shadow, same as Sasquatch is not shown in full reveal at this point. And Shaman notes that this isn't his power. This is someone else who's controlling the elements. So, and he thinks it's a man. He says he is turning my weather spell against me, and I don't know if I can stop him. And then we see the X-Men on the tarmac, all in their full clothing. Storm has turned her cape into her poncho using the unstable molecules technology. Nightcrawler is hidden under a fedora.
Yep. So
we get one eye, and Wolverine is in his classic Canadiana gear. I wish he was wearing a Canadian tuxedo, I have to say. Oh, I should have worn one. I'll wear one next week.
Look who's there in the far right with her gun at the ready.
Right in that pocket. You can tell it's right in
Missy's like, I'm gonna shoot this snow. I'm like, yes.
We get Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. We get Anne and what was the other?
Jill.
Anne and Jill. We got to find out what happens to those two.
Can't forget Jill.
The Adventures of Anne and Jill. I really hope they do come back.
They go to the Stampede. It gets wild.
Oh my gosh! So they're going to try and move quickly across the runway and get into some safety. And then here we get the reference to this is, I think, Cyclops' line, if we were just to assume. Does that sound fair? And Wolverine, I want some straight answers from you. This is the second time that Major Maple Leaf has called you out. And this time he's brought friends. Who are they? And why are they after you? I told you, bub. It's my fight. And then who says, not anymore, bub?
That's Cyclops.
If you look at
although it's not pointing at where Cyclops is, right?
I think it's Colleen Wing or Misty Knight.
Oh, see, that'd be cool. Misty Knight saying that would be cool.
Not anymore, bub. So Major Maple Leaf. Banshee does refer to him as Major Maple Leaf or whatever you call yourself. He says to him in 109 when Weapon Alpha's beam bounces off Colossus's peck or hand, maybe it's his hand, and hits Moira across the temple. Banshee loses his mind and says, all right, you Major Maple Leaf or whatever you call yourself. And he flies at him and his sonic scream liquefied everything in its path. He was so intense about it. So that's where the nickname starts. And I don't know if they ever intended on having him be called a Major Maple Leaf, but it's always in quotes, like as if the characters are air quoting every time they say it.
Yeah, that Major Maple Leaf.
Yeah, it's like they're misnomer for him. And then eventually there is a character that is called Maple Leaf on the team.
Oh, there is?
Which always bothered me.
Yes. I feel like that was like when you're trying to think behind the scenes, like that was something somebody threw out in a meeting, and they're like, "No, no, that's stupid." But we'll use it.
Exactly. So they get into the terminal. As everyone knows, it's really easy to sneak into an airport terminal.
Yeah.
But back then, I think it must have been.
Well, there's the exit, and there's the exit door.
Right.
Yeah, you just open that up.
And then the second reference to him, and even I think it's Wolverine who calls him this time. So they want the information. I'm waiting, Wolverine. I hear you. They ain't villains, folks. They're what I used to be, Canadian government agents. Oh, okay. Jimmy Hudson, Major Maple Leaf, air quote, is head of a project to develop a team of Canadian superheroes. By the way, in Canada, we just call them superheroes. He started by looking for mutants, Canadian mutants. Same. He found me. So he goes on to explain that he was the first guinea pig and he was a success or failure, depending how you wanted to look at it. Hudson gambled on me, and everyone said that, Wolverine was uncontrollable. And in the end, of course, he proves them right by being.
Wait. If you zoom into that middle panel.
Yeah.
Ooh. The guy in blonde, blonde guy over there has a piece of paper that says, "Terry, ink this now." Who is it? Who is that supposed to be?
Stern. Is it Roger Stern, the editor?
Roger Stern. Terry, ink this now. That's great.
So is this? I actually don't know what Terry Austin looks like. I wonder if
that might be. I wonder if that is Terry Austin.
We of course noted that Cockrum and Claremont were included in some of the issues around New York City. I think it was a Christmas one, wasn't it, Chris?
It was, yeah.
So I wonder if also like the other couple in the very front are supposed to be.
I was trying to figure that out. It looks they look too specific to not be somebody that they knew, right? Yeah,
they do, for sure. It almost looks like it's from a photograph that Byrne quickly rendered.
Right.
Whether it's, Byrne always wears glasses, doesn't he? Like, are there any photographs of him without glasses?
No.
So I wonder maybe if it's Claremont or I'm not sure. Then So anyway, they're headed through. They're trying to make their way out, and just giving the backstory on these characters, and it's interesting how the origin of Wolverine has sort of shifted, as in its chronology. Like, when does he have the Weapon X program done on him the way that Barry Windsor Smith tells it, and when is he like? We don't have a sense that he's 150 years old or any of that kind of stuff here. But we know that he's a Canadian agent, and he's recruited into the superhero team. Anyway, there you go. I always thought the guy walking across with a briefcase was supposed to be somebody. He's like underneath there. He's going to like invent back bacon or something like that. He's doing something important. The team decides that they're going to go rendezvous at the tower in the center of the city, a huge concrete tower. Chris, have you been to Calgary?
When I was young. So no. I guess is the answer because I was too young to remember it.
That guy is the inventor of the toque because it's a hat that won't blow away. You don't have to hang on to it like he's.
So they could have called him Professor Poutine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, do you know a good place to go for poutine in Montreal?
I may know a place or two.
We're headed to Montreal next week.
Yeah, next week we're going to Montreal.
I think we're gonna have to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, young Steve Smith from the Red Green Show.
Yeah.
Yes, or as I would know it, from Smith and Smith.
Smith, exactly.
Yeah, Jason's too young.
I have never seen Byrne without glasses. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Interviews, pictures, never.
So
Jordan's gonna pull one up right now, I'm sure.
So the team's making their way, and Nightcrawler comments about him working on his jumps, like again, flexing his powers and working out over time, and he can make it in 3 jumps. He goes 7 miles.
7 miles. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and he's been talking to Colleen about his powers and all that. And so this is Calgary. Not much to look at. But then when is a city when you're on the run? That's a good point, Nightcrawler. And he's thinking back to his experience in Winseldorf, being chased, by the villagers with pitchforks and torches like a demon. And then we get that neat shadow silhouette of
that's cool.
On him. That's the screen tone, right? So Austin would lay down that, like Byrne would pencil where he wants them, and then Austin would lay down this like a sticker basically, and then cut it out in that shape exactly. So it makes that gray. Whereas Chris, I would ink wash it, right?
Right.
And they're holding hands, and it goes so bright that there's no shadow under Nightcrawler's eyes.
And that middle pen, I like that face. I like how it's illuminated, the coloring, and it's a great face.
Yeah, it does look really good. And then we know North Star gives him a quick one across the right jaw, gives him a right hand across his jaw. That is one beefy forearm from North Star. That is the biggest his arm has ever been drawn. Oof.
Yeah, I wonder if it's not really the speed lines either. It's actually
it's the good beefy forearm, but it's also part of the foreshortening too.
Right.
So we get the sense that of course, in comics they always and cartoons too, if brothers and sisters always called each other brother and sister. Trevor, I don't know what your sibling makeup happens to be, but I don't know. Have you ever called
never
brother or sister?
Never.
Chris, you've got both. You're like, no, brother.
Don't do that, sister. Put that down. Yeah, that's a little weird.
My kids went through a phase where they called each other bro, and then my son would call my daughter Liv. Her name is Olivia, so he was bro and she was Liv bro. But so there would be that version of brother and sister, but never brother and sister so formally.
It gave me like these. I don't know. I mean, because I knew after a while, I didn't know that they spoke French here, but it gave me the sense that they were more foreign because they used those terms though with each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a little clue as to, these, they're a little different, or something. I don't know.
It also doesn't translate like perfectly. If you're going to say it in French, you wouldn't say just brother. You'd say my brother.
Right.
Like you wouldn't say.
Right.
You'd say mon frère. Like
right.
So it doesn't even go. But you wouldn't write it that way unless I guess.
Yeah, still weird.
It is. So they hit him too hard, maybe, but you can see they're compassionate, like you keep saying, Chris. They're not villainous. They're trying to complete the mission, and they're not taking any pleasure in the combat, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Aurora, I don't like hunting my own kind.
Yeah.
Right? It's good.
So Chris,
and he had to find a crafty way to not show any of them throughout this entire comic book while they're, which is great. It's very cool.
Chris, are you ready to do some reading?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I'm ready.
So in the next page, we are inside of at first we start outside and we move inside of a shopping mall, I guess. I'm going to just remove my glasses for a second and get a real close look. This guy.
It's Burt Reynolds.
It's Burt.
It's totally Burt Reynolds.
It's Norm Macdonald doing Burt Reynolds.
Yes. Canadian. There you go. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So the team is going to go inside. They're checking with each other by the tower, and they know that Nightcrawler hasn't made it. So
man, Canada really likes its towers in the 70s, eh? Right? Yeah, like the shot, that third panel is basically Scott under the CN Tower in Toronto. Sure. And then we get the Calgary Tower.
I love this, maybe Misty, but we're on Hudson's turf, fighting by his rules.
It's Canadian rules now, which means no rules, or actually it means some rules. I'm not quite sure.
Lots of pleases and thank yous and sorries.
Checking is allowed.
Yes,
that's right. Yeah,
no headshots. So, Chris, you want to go and read?
Sure. So Banshee is
smoking indoors.
Banshee's smoking indoors, like a leprechaun, by the way. Like a leprechaun. Oh, I ought to have me head examined. There's a time and place for shopping, but I've a feeling this ain't it. On the other hand, Corina's a point. With her height and hair, Aurora stands out in any crowd. Unless we can disguise that, I doubt we'll get very far unnoticed. Oh, I shouldn't be smoking. The dog in Japan said it'd be quite a while before it could scream again, if ever. I wonder, would it be so bad if I quit swashbuckling? No more Banshee, only Sean Cassidy and his lady.
No,
yay!
I'm going to just take exception with one part of that reading.
Oh, no.
He says only Sean Cassidy and his lady?
And his lady?
Because he's not sure if she's a man or a woman.
But that
also, every time they run into it, they have to be undercover. It's always Aurora who sticks out. Maybe tone down the hair a little bit, or something.
But that bottom left panel is full Lucky Charms Irish.
Full.
Like full. No.
And do you remember how we had a couple issues?
Blue diamonds.
Byrne was drawing Banshee, like really quite young and heroic. Like he looked great. There was some really but he seems he sort of slipped back into a different version of Banshee. I would say this is like maybe the third or fourth iteration of Banshee we've seen in these 20 issues. Through Cochran's couple versions and this version, it seems that he's like when you see him. I'm sad to bring this up. When you see him topless in the Savage Land, he looks great. Like it's a much younger kind of. But this, he's gone.
He's aged 10 years from the.
As soon as he exhausted his scream, it also took his youthful exuberance.
I think there's the other step is that Byrne and Claremont know where the arc is going for the character. Yeah, so they want to make him look less like a superhero for a couple issues so that when he eventually makes a decision to maybe change his life a little, it seems more legitimate or more reasonable. Just for any Americans, or I should say non-Canadians out there who are possibly watching or listening, it says that they're in a plush boutique on the third level of the Toronto Dominion Mall. So no, they're not in Toronto. If you find that confusing, Toronto Dominion is the name of a bank. So this mall would be probably named after they've sponsored the name for the mall. So the Toronto Dominion Bank would have been. Yeah, there you go. That's why it's that.
So in order to disguise Aurora, they dress her all in royal purple and leave that crown on her head.
Yes.
Nobody's ever going to.
Don't forget that crown has lockpicks in it. Don't ever
exactly true enough.
Okay.
Can Banshee say, you should read this, Chris, not me.
I can fly you to the Shire on the strength of me lungs alone.
Oh
my God, I read this Banshee so much.
Oh, did you skip the ads?
Do you want to go back and see those?
I'm just looking to see if there's anything we're talking about other than Linda Carter and Farrah Fawcett. Pizzazz. The Coneheads.
Coneheads.
Yeah.
Cheryl Ladd, that pretender. Get out of here. You're no Charlie's Angel.
That's not Cheryl Ladd. It's Giant Lad.
Giant,
That's literally what it says. Giant lad.
giant lad. Oh my god, it does.
It's
Great.
only
I
because
think that was a DC character, wasn't it? Giant lad.
from the Legion of Superheroes.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
it sounds like Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, giant lad.
Yeah. Jason Lowe, you are wrong. It's Giant Lad, not Cheryl. But anyway. You think you know so much out there, huh? You don't know. You got to read the original. Actually, Jason, you probably have this one. But anyway. And then Banshee continues. And like this stronger Banshee, he does not look heroic at all.
No.
The superhero is gone.
He's under all the green clothes he chooses to wear.
Yeah,
Right.
well, the heavy layers, it makes you think his frame is really quite slight. He has spent, over a week in a hospital, not to go after him, but there you go.
There you go.
Do you wanna read what he says here?
Sure, he says, I mean, it's a grand outfit, but on Aurora it looks, I don't know. I guess I'm used to seeing her in the white.
There you go. Maybe that's not an appropriate thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah, not great.
They're just talking about how she just wants to be naked.
Go to X-Men HR, please,
Yep.
Banshee.
Yeah.
Sean is correct. I feel smothered in all these clothes. There you go. And she's never cold. Okay.
It's a lot of exposition just to talk about Aurora's clothes and the fact that she'd really rather be
is.
naked.
Yeah.
And this is one of my least favorite Vindicator flying poses.
Yeah, that's a little awkward.
If you take away the speed lines, he could be skydiving and free fall.
Free fall, yeah.
Yeah, the body isn't really doing the work. That he seems a little too relaxed. Like between his right arm and his left foot should be a real stretch.
Like he's just kind of diving into bed or something like that.
Yeah, I wonder if you flip it over. If you took away the speed lines and flip this over, if it looks like he's just lying on his back. He's just looking up at the stars. Anyway, so he's looking for a target, trying to find things. He thinks they've given him the slip. So he's recalibrating the scanners. He's got to find them before get this thing done. So he's flying over the city, goes by the Dominion Mall, and he decides to melt.
Yeah,
the ceiling?
There's a door right there. It's right there.
We also get a little CanCon behind him with Eaton's. If you know that's for those unfamiliar. It was the big department store chain here until the early 2000s.
Right, like based on it's from a family that was. How would you say, Chris? Like
a
aristocratic family, a famous aristocratic Canadian.
captain of industry, kind of. The
name is all over the country. Especially in this region, so he melts through the roof, and we get another example of Claremont having to name characters that don't need names. Kelly, look out! Johnny, what is that?
because you say somebody's name before you ask what?
Yes. So this is like the Reavers. We're gonna get the Kelly and Johnny.
That's right.
And I've already forgotten their names again. Anne and
Jill
Man spin-off series. They're going to get
Kelly and Johnny
show. And right away, he's critical of himself. He knows. So this was a dumb thing to do, and he says it. He's scared of those people, scared those kids half to death. They're not used to these superhero types.
Yeah, people melting through the ceiling. Yeah, I know.
No, it's crazy. And this is where things start to go off the rails a little bit for the mission. Hudson calls out Banshee's name.
Yeah.
And right away,
you! The spleen who nearly murdered Moira McTaggart.
Can you say murdered again?
Mouthful.
Spleen?
No, say murdered again, please. In
Murdered.
I had to look up spleen when I was reading this.
What is a spleen?
Now I've forgotten, but it's a very Irish term, I guess, for like a jerk or a.
Right.
Gotta look it up. Spleen.
Right now.
So this is referring back to, like I said before, in issue 109, or Classic X-Men 16, or Alpha Flight 17, because it was retold there as well. And of course, Banshee looking never less healthy than he does in this moment.
Oof.
Ghost uses powers and they fail him because he's just burned everything right out. He's not in a good state and he collapses. And then, instantly, Hudson says, "Easy, Banshee, don't try and talk, man. I'll phone for a doctor." Like there's no animosity here. Like you're not okay. Let's get you help. I just need Wolverine. Like I'm not here to kick your ass, even though I totally can kill you right now. And then we get an odd thing from Byrne. You don't usually see this, is the directional arrow telling you to read the panel down instead of going to the right, which we're
I don't have that. Interesting. Do I?
You don't have it? Where are you reading?
No. Oh no, I see it. Oh, it was kind of hidden.
Subtle.
Yeah, I didn't see
it's
that.
Subtle,
yeah.
And Lord, I hope he's all right. Like that's his comment, right? And then just a minor sidebar. We were talking again to Scott Chandler about this last time when we had Vindicator. The issue is his head always looks better when the front of his face is cast in black.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about this design that it never looks good when it's in plain white, like kind of like that Super Friends Batman, where there's that black on the front of the mask. No matter what angle you have to defy lighting. Do not follow the rules of lighting. Follow the rules of just cool looking, and give him not too pointy a nose. It's a little bit close to
basically
the face.
Batman, right? I mean, it's the same thing, right? I mean,
the only difference I would say between Batman and this face is just that the nose isn't as pointy.
Right.
Like that Neil Adams, Jim Aparo, and Byrne. They don't draw the nose as they draw Batman's nose quite sharp. This one is almost kind of rounded across the front of his mask. Right. If you go back to one of the first panels where I think he's talking to the Prime Minister, you can see the splash page at the very front of the book. His nose is not a pointy stick-out nose. It is a flat smush nose. And not because the character looks that way unmasked. It's because it just looks better with the mask on. And it always looks better in black, which leads me to my point I was going to make is the action figure. And with that white face, I'm tempted to try something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, the nose is pointy, which is one thing.
Yep. And he's got outlines around his eyes, which I don't like. He just doesn't have that because the black, you don't need it.
And the red, we've talked about this too.
Yeah, the red is the wrong color red, given that.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like it should be a richer crimson.
Yeah.
He needs a wash for sure. He needs a wash.
Or someone makes those like you make those the shadows on the
shadows,
red, which is what they used to do in like the Toy Biz days. They would have done that, but Marvel Legends usually they don't have much shadow painted on. They let the musculature do it. The sculpt generate the shadow for you. But I'm tempted to maybe get a second one of these and do a more true to comic book style design.
How do you feel about the pearlescent white?
I hate it.
I don't really like that either, right? It's just this is all wrong.
Yeah,
it needs a repaint.
It needs a redo. This is a figure I desperately wanted for 30 years.
Yep.
And I'm really glad I have this, but it leaves me wanting an adjustment or modification. And I don't think that folks at Hasbro are going to do that anytime soon.
No,
I think we have to wait another decade.
Two things. A spalleen is a poor migratory farm worker in Ireland, often viewed as a rascal or a mischievous and cunning person.
Wow.
So there you go.
So rascal is a fair...
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
And the second thing, Jason, this is for you. Why would you think... I mean, I know it's a time saver, but if you look at Sean's pants in the two panels there, he's using like a pattern, like a print... what do you call it? What you just called it? A...
plaid.
Yeah, no, but it's something that he just laid down, right? This is no way this is drawn, right? Or
this could easily be. I say easily. For a guy like Terry Austin, you could do this with a ruler pretty quick.
Yeah,
with a straight edge.
But why do it straight like that? Like I don't understand. Like it would be so easy just to draw the little. I guess it's a time.
To do it SpiderMan web styles where it follows the contour of the body, it'll lose its. It won't look good either. Unless you really get a model, and then take a photograph of the model and use the reference.
Right.
It kind of, I've seen it both ways, and this is a little bit of just it's a special effect that doesn't go all the way to
just enough to make
see,
it.
Exactly. It's just enough to give the impression.
You understand that besides the jacket and the Irish Spring, sweater he's got on, he's also got plaid pants on. So he's Irish, okay?
Yeah. I mean, there would be a screen tone you could do, and this might very well be, but I'm looking at the two different.
Yeah, they are different. Yeah, they're
the two different
not
ones.
evenly spaced. Yeah.
They're not evenly spaced.
Right.
They look unique, and Austin is definitely not afraid to draw a whole bunch of straight lines that are parallel to each other. In this case, parallel and perpendicular. So it's just like part of the language of drawing plaid is sometimes artists will just go straight. You get a guy like Jeff Lemire who'll do the plaid, and he just won't put too much attention on it. Like he'll go down the contours, but he'll keep it a really simple check, a simple check pattern, so that he can do it that way. And other times, if they want, they'll just do it straight like that. So it's not huge, but it does the job. I do find it a little distracting too.
That last panel is cool with her hair, and then there's a pattern on her dress in the shadow of her knees, which is
now in this case that is 100% a screen tone.
Yeah, and
that's actually a double screen tone. So Austin will lay down one for her skirt and lay down a second one over top of it when it's her on her pelvis, and then her knees has one as well.
So interesting that like
they have such
blue, that's a
texture.
Yeah, but for shadow, it's a weird that hasn't happened anywhere else in the, what I mean?
You get some creators use it more than others. You get like with Klaus Janson, for instance, on Daredevil, you'll see him pull out something, on every second page. Maybe they'll use a screen tone, so it can be really, really common, and it's neat. I've never used one. I'm tempted to try. I've used them. I faked it digitally, like I have 30 screen tones like scanned, and so I can make them see through and transparent and put them over top of an image to use one of those patterns. I've done it for like a dot pattern once in a while, but I haven't gone very far with it, and never used one in a comic yet, just on other things. So Dagwood from Blondie or Handicap, exactly. That's where you're going to see that kind of stuff.
But I love the effect on her hair that he did here. That's really cool. Storm starting. That's really cool. I love that.
I've often said this is like a variation of it's like Byrne's variation of Kirby Crackle, where he uses and we've seen in those Elsewinds that you were talking about, he'll use the side of his pencil and create blockier shapes, and they flow beautifully. So he's really cool. So Storm sees this. She immediately thinks that, of course, Hudson has done something to hurt Banshee, which is not the case. He provoked him, but he didn't actually assault him in any way. But Storm has seen enough, and she's going to promise you by all that I hold dear.
Here are some ads.
That you're not going to be able to do this again, because this is the second time, and there will not be a third. And she's
got grit, and you should get grit.
Yes, she chucks this guy right out. Shaboom.
Little man, you do not know the meaning of the word. That's cool. So cool.
She looks super powerful in that middle panel there, and she's waving her hand like doing a backhand. And
I do like how the store owner was like, "You're wrecking my store, please."
I was just gonna say that. It's like, I like that they're calling out. It's like, what? Listen, lady, this is my store, man. I just got you this great outfit.
Yeah, like
ruining everything. Thanks.
It looks great. And then there's just onto the screen tone stuff, like all that cloud above her in that middle panel, middle.
Yeah.
When you're on there where Banshee's waving her off, saying, "Oh, let him go." That cloud is screen tone as well. And then they would basically like scrape some off to create those curves, or even like drag an eraser over it, or to get as much of it off, like in the airplane scenes before they were using it as well. But it's inkers learn all these tricks, laying stuff over and peeling some off. So it's a good way to get certain textures that you can't draw by hand, or at least not easily. If you really want to see this stuff, like an absolute, like the highest usage ever of these tools, find a black and white of Akira. Go read Akira and see Otomo do it at the highest level of execution. So Guardian runs away. He doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to go up against Storm, which is wise because it's not going to accomplish anything. And he takes off and flies out into the night. And he doubts, why he's even doing this, and mentions perhaps Heather was right. Heather?
Heather?
Who's Heather?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he just wanted the
I
job.
love that, though.
What do you love?
I just love that. It's just
The
he
whole
throws
world?
that out. I mean, this means something, not just Jill and Anne, but I mean, like, who's
Right.
Heather? Like, who is this guy? I love it.
Yeah. And then, the guys spot him from the ground. They see what's going on. And Wolverine is in a less than savory part of town.
Looks
And
like.
the downtown's not looking too good. I love this look of Wolverine. And he wants to find Cracklin' Rosa. And she still runs her quote-unquote social club. Yeah, lots of smoke talk in this one. I was a wild kid back then, and she was my kind of woman. So where do I get off falling for a lady like Mariko Yoshida?
I want to believe, by the way, that when he's talking about Rosa and back then, it's like the 40s.
Sure.
He's just hasn't been there for so long, right?
True. I wonder if she's 102, man.
And you're like, I think she died.
Yeah, Cracklin' Rosa died 30 years ago. Man.
And then I do also think that the sizing of this angle is not right. Like, the Sasquatch should be so much taller, even still.
Yeah.
But it's a creepy panel, though. I mean, it's got that, a little bit of light on him, accentuating all of his fur. But, and then you see his hand come out, and it's the size of Wolverine's shoulders. Like, the size of,
I love this. Love. Who needs it? Me.
Me. That's who needs it. This guy right here. Who's got 2 thumbs and needs love?
I feel the flick of the cigarette, though. Like, I love that. Or it's a cigarello, I think, even. But
and a screen tone jacket.
And the dot screen, that's similar to the one I would use. Yeah. It's neat. It's really neat seeing this. But then you get to see the hand inking, in the background, the building behind Wolverine as he's walking forward. That's all Austin just laying down what would be like a screen tone, but doing it by hand in
really cool.
Yeah, in Eisnerian kind of texture. I mean, lots of guys have done stuff like that before, like in a cityscape. There's a bookstore title there. Like, Calgary is where Byrne is in his Canadian experience. Like, Byrne, I think, spends 5 years in England before coming to Canada, and Calgary, I think, is his home base in Canada. So I'm sure he's putting a few spots in there maybe that he has a soft spot for. Who knows? Anyway, looks very Midnight Cowboy. Jason Lowe says yes, for sure. Yeah. And then,
the East Calgary Smoke Shop paperbacks.
Yeah.
Alien #1 on sale now. Interesting. Okay.
And then Sasquatch makes quick work of Wolverine, just thrashing him like Zdeno Chara against who did against Brian McCabe?
Who did he toss around like a rag doll? Brian McCabe. 100%.
That's a hockey reference for anyone out there who likes the NHL. Wolverine didn't even stand a chance. He beat him pretty fast. Would you do us the honor of in your best Canadian lummox snuffleupagus Sasquatch voice, read us the...
You talking to me?
Yes, you, Chris.
Okay. Captain Logan, you put me and my friends to a lot of trouble tonight. Now, are you going to come along quietly, or do I have to get rough? Good. I'm so glad you see things my way. Pleasant dreams.
At this point, he's been unconscious for like 45 seconds by the time Sasquatch Phoenix finishes talking.
Yeah, he's already done. And he's just Captain Logan. He's already done. Captain Logan. He's already done.
I love how also Captain Logan
refers to him.
I know Captain Logan. Yeah.
That's super cool to think about him having rank.
Yeah,
that's very cool. So, in this one, it's hard to. I thought Cyclops might be miscolored, so they don't know where Wolverine is. That they tried. Oh, here they make reference to Jaren Hogarth again.
Yep.
So they're going to figure out that Wolverine and Nightcrawler are still missing. We got to figure out that they've been captured, and the X-Men didn't start this fight, people. but we're sure as hell gonna finish it. And I just said hell in the kids.
I know, right?
If necessary, over Alpha Flight's dead bodies. Shootout at the Stampede is next. Oh, that is a Calgarian tradition. I love that the wham and the bam are breaking the panel borders, as Wolverine is getting knocked left and right. It's good use of the sound effects and breaking borders.
Now, here's
70s.
Here's a question. So Scott refers to them as Alpha Flight.
I was just going to say that.
But when I went back, I just checked in front of me because when Wolverine is explaining who they are, he doesn't call them Alpha Flight. He calls them Canadian government agents.
Yeah.
They're a team of Canadian superheroes. I don't think he uses that term at all.
I think you're right. That's what I was questioning. I'm like, wait a minute. They've never referred to them as that. He doesn't know
Cyclops
Major
knows
Maple
much more.
Leaf.
He's letting on.
But he knows they're called Alpha Flight. He hasn't even seen them all.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So Winger Luz is just commenting on Storm's hair. Yeah, she's wearing a hat that's covering up, that her hair is tucked into, like a hairnet, but something decorative.
Yeah.
Remember, it's cold in Calgary.
But she doesn't get cold. She told us that.
What it really is there, it's to keep her incognito.
She grabbed
Can I-
the hat
can I
while
limit
she was walking out of that store she trashed without paying the bill.
So in the second page, Hudson refers to Alpha Flight with Trudeau.
Oh, okay.
But how would Cyclops know that?
Oh,
Right.
yeah, no,
The
yeah. I
reader
was going to say,
knows.
not in front of them. Yeah.
He would be like, I'm this guy of Alpha Flight, which they usually do to announce themselves, but it doesn't happen in this issue anyway. That's a weird
Maybe
one.
he got some intel during the fight.
On this letters page, just to point out, there's a really famous one here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the right-hand column, second one down, that's Colonel Tom Parker. That's Elvis Presley's manager. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Gotta be.
Yeah, I'm sure
Colonel.
it probably is.
Pretty sure.
He's a big fan.
I mean, come on, guys. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So the whole time we've been doing this, because we went so long, my phone died. So I can't show you the way I would like to, all the extra stuff.
Oh.
But it's okay. I have a fun setup where I have to plug my earbuds into my phone so that it doesn't give us the sound from the phone as we're going. Long story short, phone's dead. But I will tell you there are a couple extra pages of story that we kind of would want. After this one, the intro page, you get more of it.
Okay.
Again,
Oh, wow.
Kieran Dwyer and Claremont, and it's Hudson reflecting on things and talking about how he doesn't want this to escalate, and you get this image here of him taking his helmet off, and you get him phoning Heather.
You get a Heather.
That whole thing, that at least that first panel looks like something I've seen before. I wonder if they pulled that from an Alpha Flight or something.
Perhaps. It looks like it is still Kieran Dwyer's hand.
Okay.
But just showing the characters in costume as opposed to it kills the hiding of the reveal. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's a great
Which
idea.
it works so hard to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It undermines the issue. And the last panel on this page, it shows that I think that they're being listened to.
Okay.
That's how I read that, is that there's something going on there that they're being on their phone call, they're being listened to.
Can't trust CSIS.
Can't trust the Canadian Intelligence Agency. And then we get two pages of what's happening on Muir Isle.
Right.
Phoenix going for a run in the middle of the night, kind of or late, and using her powers and staying warm. And she finds Moira out on the island, out on Cliffside. And they're both kind of in mourning, both having lost people they love, thinking they're dead, when of course we know they're not. And they share some of the emotions about that together. So what version am I holding up? This is Classic X-Men issue 26.
I do have that
where Marvel reprinted these Classic X-Men issues, these essential X-Men issues. They reprinted the run 10 years later, and they recolor this or that, make a couple adjustments.
But like the title of that reprint is "And Now Sasquatch." Like Sasquatch is meant to be a major part of this book.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And
Great cover though. I love the
Cover,
illustration.
but,
I'm not.
Yeah, it's weird.
a huge fan. But
How about and now Alpha Flight?
Right.
Yeah, and let's see if there's anything else in this story. There is nothing else that is new. It's just like page for page, everything identical. And then we get the backup, which is John Bolton on art, and I want to just make sure. I think it's Anna Senti at this point. John Bolton. No, it's Claremont doing the whole thing. So this one is Wolverine thinking back to when he's at, is her name Cracklin Rosa?
Cracklin Rosie. Cracklin Rosa. Rosie or Rosa?
I think Rosa.
Rosa. Is that her?
Here. And so he's remembering. So Bolton is drawing this story in two styles, like illustrative and like super cartoony.
Right.
And it's like you see, Wolverine there. And
that's pretty genius. Like,
so this,
what I mean?
Yeah,
like that little piece of dialogue. Like, yeah, we're gonna write a whole story about that Cracklin Rosa.
So while he's at the bar and he's basically hustling people, so he's now he's in a bar in current time, but not when they're in Calgary. They're back in Westchester by this point. So he's out drinking with, I guess that is, I should just look and read it. I'm going to say that's Nightcrawler in disguise, maybe, and of course Banshee.
Banshee, yeah.
Or is it Colossus?
Colossus.
Right? No, it's Kurt. He says it's Kurt. So it's Nightcrawler. They're out having drinks, and they're telling the story. And as Wolverine tells the story about hustling everyone for beer money, arm wrestling and whatnot. One particular guy gets a little agitated by the whole thing. They're joined by Cyclops, and Banshee says, "Wait, hold on. I was kind of involved in something parallel to this." And Banshee starts to retell his story, and it turns out they were actually at the same bar at the same time. Banshee was doing some police detective kind of work, and Wolverine was hustling, and they were both involved in a similar heist. And Wolverine fighting that guy was the distraction that Banshee needed to accomplish his goal. And it just goes on like that. And eventually Wolverine beats the guy up, and it ends with them all kind of having a laugh about how they both played a role in their lives at a different stage. They ended up in the same place.
It's so interesting, that last page, the style of it's like a very 40s looking cartoon type of style. It's
For
really
sure.
Interesting. Bolton, Al Cap.
Bolton has he's got chops. He can do kind of whatever he wants to do. And it's really neat to see. They're always kind of interesting in their contrast to the regular issues, as these I don't know what you call them, like supplementary narratives, usually with only one or two or three characters in it. So they're always they're often out of costume and kind of fun. I like them a lot. Yeah, that's my thing. That's the issue I got there.
I got that one, I think.
It is very late at night. We had a good long chat today. Just to wrap up quickly, we got our Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure of Sasquatch, who's very beefy.
He's great.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts to get this. No tail, of course, but he's got his fur loin. Want to see what's underneath?
What is it?
Nothing. I was expecting.
Sasquatches don't procreate.
I would like this to be much longer and really down to the knees. There you go. But fun to have this one. I showed you.
Longowski is underneath.
Guardian already. We've got.
Yeah.
And then these ones came in a 5-pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. With Puck.
6-pack. Pardon me, because Heather in her Vindicator costume.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It was an Amazon exclusive, and then, but it showed up in some stores too, and of course,
it did.
And then I think this is one of the nicer.
It is nice
from the box set. Their heads are all unique, of course, but the bodies are all reuse. Minimal no sculpting on the bodies. Snowbird is just the female kind of nude, just painted. Aurora is the same empty buck. Mm-hmm. This is the Sunfire body, just painted differently. Yep. And Shaman is known as the Bucky Cap.
The Bucky Cap
body
yeah.
with gauntlets we've seen before, and
Wow.
the skirt, boots from Cap, like Bucky Cap. The real important piece would be his pouch, right? Just his magical pouch, which I wish was kind of removable because
Alpha Flight deserves better, and we need Marina.
Right.
And I didn't bring Puck upstairs because Puck isn't in this issue. So
Puck is really good, though. Puck as a figure is pretty good. Actually.
he's an improvement from the original Build-A-Figure.
Right.
Puck. The biggest problem with these ones is like the paint is really
it's lame, man.
It's cheap.
Really bad.
So look at the shoulders. Like I haven't posed this guy, but you can see the green underneath that yellow,
Right.
Yeah,
or orange. They really, and there's no, of course, tassels. Like I think he has fringes, I should say, fringes on his cup, but they didn't do that. For me, just having them at all is very special because I just dreamt of them as a child. So having them is great.
I do contemplate repainting them.
Let us know if you do.
I don't know. It's that I'm torn between that collector thing and but sadly, it's Alpha Flight. There's not apparently a lot of interest. I don't know why.
I'm going to spin it positively.
Mm-hmm.
Even with these less than ideal paint jobs, look at that amazing photograph you took that you posed and executed so beautifully. Like you look at it
more Alpha Flight.
Nobody is complaining that the paint jobs and the figures aren't up to snuff because you bring the best out of them through the photography. So they're really cool. They're really, really, it's a great image. If I was allowed to, I think I would just put it up in my house. Make my
that could be arranged.
She doesn't want to see Alpha Flight.
Oh, in the house. Oh, not in your office.
No. I want it in the stairwell, as I walk up and down every day. There you go. Next issue, we've got, of course, 121. It's the full-on fight between the two teams. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to have Scott Chandler back.
Cool.
As per his request, he wanted to be on either. We were lucky that two great guests were both cool about getting whatever one they're available for. So I'm really glad we got you in for this one, Trevor. It was a real treat having you here. Given that you're you have such a soft spot, you're a fan of Alpha Flight. And Scott, next week will be a pleasure. In following weeks, we're going to see Kevin from Toying Around will be on. Cool. The return of Jason Lowe. I think we're going to get Eli Schwab from Cosmic Lion will be in here. Am I forgetting anybody, Chris?
I don't know.
Either way, you got lots of going on in the near future. We should have a great.
And I'll be back again here next March.
Right.
For issue 160.
First appearance of Rogue.
Right.
On the team. First appearance of
X-Men. On the team. So right.
Yeah. But anyway, Avengers Annual 10. Pardon me. Please click like, subscribe to the channel.
Yes.
Share it with anyone you know who you think would be interested or who you think could be interested if they were finally to have the chance to be exposed to this much X-Men. It's for fans who are already fans or people who would be fans if they had the chance. So we're so happy to have that opportunity to have you share with anyone if you wouldn't mind. Jason Lowe says he's coming on for issue 125. Thank you, Jason.
Nice.
I don't know what week that is yet off the top of my head, but we'll put it in our calendars. Don't you worry about that. And you say that David Cutler should go on. All right. Let's talk, David Cutler. How you doing, man? Nice to meet you. We'll go from there. Trevor, any final words? Where can we find your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram at 16_shooter, on every place else at 16shooter. I don't know who's got at 16shooter on Instagram, but I'm going to find them. My YouTube channel, I've got some tutorials for if you're interested in toy photography, and I do a 1/6 show every other Friday and a Mythic Legion show every other Monday, and we get some good guests on there and stuff too. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's where I am.
Very cool. Chris, anything you want to pitch before we go?
Hey, if you like what we do, check us out on the socials. Group of 7 Comics. That's the number 7. We got a couple of books coming up. Peregrine's second part of that series will be out within a month or so. And we got a few shows coming up in the Montreal area. We're at Montreal Comics Arts Festival next week. Wow to say. And hey, and for those, I think we've got a few people here. We'll be the Toronto Comic Arts Festival in downtown Toronto, middle of June. So looking forward to that. What about you, Jay? You got anything to share?
You did a great job.
You guys coming to New York Comic Con?
We're coming to Maryland.
That's not New York.
That's not New York, but it's close.
Not even close.
That's not even close.
It's closer to New York than we are right now.
Okay. Well,
maybe next year.
Maybe I can make it to Maryland.
We have not made plans to go to New York Comic Con, but it's there's only there's kind of two ways to get into these kinds of shows. One is you pay to get in, and one is that you're invited as a guest. So there's only so many we can pay for in a year, and if we got in as guests, I imagine we would do whatever we could to be there. When is it, by the way, New York Comic Con?
I want to say it's October, mid-October sometime. I don't know. They just came out with the tickets and stuff like that to sign up. So I don't know.
That would be amazing if
one day
we make it down to New York.
One day.
We bring all our Alpha Flight loving.
You can stay here. I'll put some cots in the middle of the collection room. You guys can just do this all night.
I was gonna say you'd come down in the morning to wake us and find all your toys.
There's just toys all over the floor.
I'm like they're hugging us, like snuggling. We're hugging, like an Obi-Wan Kenobi hot toy, like just like. That's so funny. That's a very sweet offer. We might take you up on that. Play with some action figures. That's Definitely. So much fun. Everyone out there, thank you for hanging with us, and we'll see you next time on Previously in X-Men. There you go. Here we go. We're ending. You ready to end the broadcast? Everyone have a good night. Stay safe.